Hey, what's going on, everyone? It is David Palmer, Leo King, and Rich Lopp here for the Awakening Experience, the Judgment card. What's going on, Rich?
What's up, man? How you doing?
I'm pumped. We're doing our live event July 7th through the 9th. We're almost done with the website, but I just thought we would put up. It's going down.
Yeah.
We're in the same spots that we're supposed to be, too. But I'm excited, man, to be doing this event with you. We're going to have 100 tickets in person here at the studios. We have events here throughout, not only just the studios, but we're going to be doing beach events, cool stuff like that. Plus, we'll have the live stream, too.
Mm-hmm. I'm super excited. It's going to be awesome.
I know. Yeah, this has been something super in the works for a while, but it's finally coming to fruition. And I appreciate everybody, and I know you do too, that love this show and love what we're doing, but know that there's so much more than... This show goes into so many different places, but to be able to bring everything we're doing, even outside this show, that's still incorporated in a weird way, into the physical form for people.
Yeah. My whole goal, at least the part that I want to play in this show, is to like, because I know that our goal here in the spiritual community, if you're really wanting to do the actual work, is to help people awaken. The awakening experience means that we bridge the gap between the spiritual community and all the other little groups. Because like I said the other night, when you take a look at the population, you have all these little groups. Everybody's divided into little groups. And the spiritual community is no different. The spiritual community is a little group in and of itself.
Yep.
And I really feel very strongly that where we're headed, we need to bridge the gap between all these little groups and spirituality, because I don't care what group you're a part of, where you're from, what your beliefs are. There's a spiritual aspect to everything in life. And no matter what you do, no matter what group you belong to, you can figure out how to awaken and start applying spirituality to whatever you do in life, you know?
I agree with you because, like, this is a world that is evolving beyond what any human has had to go through all at once, that we know of at least, even in our known history. And this is a time for us to realize the power that's within this awakening experience. Like and how these little groups, like you said, we all have to find a way to come together. I don't think it's going to be just like we're all hanging out in the same moment 24/7 in the physical and that idea, but in the metaphysical and that frequency that we all have to do. I mean, to shift things, it's going to take events, constantly all of us tapping into each other, tapping into this collective in our own unique, unified groups. Like, this is definitely a unified collective, and it's definitely a big moment for us. I mean, this is, just with all the crazy shit, this has definitely been a judgment card kind of time.
Well, and a judgment time is coming.
Yeah,
I mean, we've been hearing for how long about Judgment Day, and I think everybody has their own little rendition as to what they think Judgment Day is going to be. And I'm not claiming that my rendition is the end all be all, but I very strongly feel that when the split is complete, because I did a video about this the other day. I put it on Facebook, that it still blows my mind. All the people who have been dropping like flies since 2020. Every time I discover somebody who has died, like so many people I know have died since 2020. And I'm not even talking about the pandemic.
Right.
Like, sometimes it has to do with that, sometimes it doesn't, just period. And it's amazing to look and see all the beings who came here to just play the last little bit of the 3D game.
I know.
Before the split began. And now, bam, it started. And now the way I see it, the two timelines are still overlapped.
Right.
And that's where we light workers are, wake up. It's splitting off.
Right.
And then eventually, it's going to be too late. Like,
yeah. Well, there's that singularity timeline too, which I feel like this card does. It's a moment where I always think that this is the most interesting card of the deck, just because the fact that, people are coming up out of their coffins and they're gray. They don't have like the typical, like you'll see the human quality, right? It's like the unconscious meeting the conscience at the same time. This is an angel. It's the 20th card. There's 2 X factors. It's 10 times 10, right? It's like this major moment where it's like everything is crossing into this major moment of life, and the trumpet calls from the divine, where everybody comes out of their coffin and reaches up and knows it's a singular moment, right? Like, so there is that singular timeline, which once the split happens, it comes to a singular one. We don't have to ever connect back to that old one, and everything does kind of collapse into one timeline. But I do feel, though, that this card, there's a lot of things I know we're going to cover in this one, but I do feel like it's an interesting one because everybody's at the same moment understanding the calling. I think the biggest part about this card to me is the calling, you know, the divine intervention too. Like, there's a calling, though, in your life spiritually. You're not just some random NPC here or just some random human here. I think this card also gives credibility to the uniqueness of every single human being, that when the divine calls, it's not looking for just, you know, that's the problem in the spiritual community. Like, I'm the most awake and only 144,000 are the ones.
Oh, shit, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like that, this card blows that out of the water.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and a weird way to look at this too. This comes out a lot as advice whenever I'm doing a reading and I look for advice. My biggest thing is advice, because like I've said before, I'm not a tarot reader who's here to tell you that the future is just going to randomly happen to you and you have no control of it. So I always give advice. And when this comes out as advice, what I'll typically tell people is don't be so quick to judge what's happening right now. That's another big thing. I'm going to say 99% of the time, just to be practical, but I truly believe it's 100% of the time. I've never had anything, especially something really big, happen in my life that didn't later on down the line reveal itself to be a completely different reasoning behind why it happened. Like, something happens right now and you're scared, you're hurt, whatever the case may be. If you give it an honest look back 5 years down the line,
Right.
5 years later, you're going to look back and say, oh, I see why that happened that way.
Right.
Okay, now that makes sense. So a lot of times I'll tell people, don't be so quick to judge what's happening right now. It'll make sense later on down the line.
Yeah, and that's an important thing because that comes with assumptions, right? Like, when we assume, it just makes an ass out of you and me. And in the spiritual community, it can be very quick to judge. I always like to don't judge a book by its cover, especially when the cover's gray, alien, human beings. You don't want to be judging what we could actually be. You know, it's always like a reflection of like when judgment comes of like what maybe we are ourselves. And like that's an important thing, I feel, because this moment to me always is, there's always a moment that brings a higher calling in our life. We've talked a lot in this show about all these other cards, but also just the awakening experience itself. There comes these very divine moments where it's like, holy shit. And this is like the big one, the whole, or as Christopher Witecki, one of my, you know, dearest friends and who helped me on this path, he always called it the holy shift.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of holy shit.
Yeah.
And I've loved that because it is a moment in life where we can continue to follow the stupid physical reality and the programming, or we could raise up. And it does feel like a raising up out of like your dead life. You know, the whole awakening experience does feel like you are in a this card's kind of trippy because, you know, it was drawn like in the late 1800s, beginning 1900s. And it's not like they were talking about the Matrix and being plugged in and you know.
Yeah.
But this card is like how they looked at it back then, like getting out of a coffin and awakening out of the box that this reality can really be. The other interesting thing is, of course, the red cross that's on here. Fucktard Christopher Columbus, of course, had that red cross, of course, to let people know, like, there's a lot of Templar Knight aspects to this, believe it or not. But it's said that even the Templar Knights had gone to North America and worked with the Native American tribes to be able to get the copper to build all these crazy things that were on the other side of the world that they found that was by like Lake Michigan and Oswego and all these places. So it's one of those weird aspects too, where this card does have this Knights Templar energy in it. Because this is the cross, and that they say that Christopher Columbus, when he came over in 1492, that he had that flag on, and that's why the Native Americans like, oh, we've dealt with these people before.
Oh.
right? Even though he was I don't know if you know, but he wrote some really horrible things about the indigenous people. And he was just there looking for gold. He wasn't there looking for anything else. So he was judging the people too, right?
Yeah.
And there for his own higher judgment. And this card has, I would say, yeah, probably in the reverse. I always used to look at this card as like, you ain't paying attention to shit right now. Like, you know, like it's to me the card of like, wow, you're not on alignment too. Like spiritual high alignment. Like, and I don't know if you've seen this. This would be a good question. Have you seen people like be on the spiritual path and be doing really good and then just like, it reminds me like in the Matrix when one of the guys goes, I want to go back to the Matrix. Fuck this. I'll take the Matrix any day.
Yeah.
This card reversed is when somebody's dealing with somebody who's just like, what happened to them? They were spiritual and they just chose the opposite path.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I was just talking. Well, matter of fact, I just said this the other day. A lot of people want to awaken spiritually because they think it's going to make this life easier. You know, they think, well, if I understand universal laws and things like that, and I have a better understanding of how to manipulate energy and whatnot, it's going to make this life easier. And that to me is very much like a toddler who can't wait to grow up because they think they can do everything that they want. And you try to tell the little toddler, look, no, just because you grow up does not mean that it gets easier. And it's the same thing with the spiritual awakening.
Right.
Just because you begin to awakening, that doesn't mean that it's easier. In many ways, it's a lot harder, a lot more responsibility. And I've seen many people, they get on that path, they start awakening, and then they realize that the pressure is just too great.
Yeah.
And nobody, especially when you're on the manifestation path now, you're still a human. Just because you learn how manifestation works, you learn how energy behaves, that doesn't make you less human. You're still a human. You still have your emotions. You still have your desires. You're still a regular human. So, but now though, whenever you start to fall in to one of those human, you know, experiences of being pissed off or having a low vibration, now you have this other little voice saying, ha ha ha, well, you're fucking up now. And now that's extra, that's like more responsibility on your shoulders. And some people just can't take it. And they let go and say, no, you know what? I just want to go back to sleep. I want to go back to the Matrix. And I'd be lying if I said I've never had that thought before. I've had that thought a few times. It'd be nice to just go back to sleep and completely forget all this stuff that I know. Seems like in some ways it was a little bit easier, honestly, in some ways. But I mean, yes, to answer your question, yes, I've seen that many, many times. Many times.
No, I just want to, I'll just add one little bit to that. It's like, I think that's a disheartening thing because it's more than just the personal disheartening aspect that you can have in yourself as a person. But I feel like it's the divine that has, you can feel the divine's disheartening energy. Like, oh man. And I don't think that the judgment comes to that either. Like, I don't think the divine's up there just like, you piece of shit, you left the light. Like, I don't feel like it does it that way. I think it always is helping, and it might not be as easy, right? Like, I think that there's moments where it's like, it's pretty fucking clear, you know, it's loud, the Trump card, the Trump it, you know, like there's a lot of that kind of energy we've been seeing over the years too, which first thing I thought when even Trump ran for office, I was like, I thought of this card right away. You know,
sure.
Like the trumpet call and the angel's trumpet call. But I do feel that people have an ability to always keep seeing. I feel like it could be smaller moments to them that keep waking them up. But I was going to say about this card, it does have that supernatural effect. And I was going to say it's one of the only major arcanas besides Wheel of Fortune. Everything is the Emperor, the Chariot, the this, the that. This one's just straight like, it's not the judgment either, right? So it's not like a specific judgment, but it is the divine intervention judgment moment. And I think that we all are feeling this super intense right now. But this is where it gets a little mixed in with where I don't believe in revelations as the destruction of the world and some human's going to come back and save the world, which is exactly what the false idols are already.
Yeah.
So it's kind of contradictory, like, you know, and putting one person as the only person that saves the day.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, this isn't one angel saving the day. This is a messenger, because this is a divine message. The trumpet of an angel is the divine messenger. So it's like another card of, like, you know how to hear the divine message. And many psychics, intuitives, tarot readers, astrologers are that.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, you know what? It wouldn't surprise me, though, if they did. Because I know I've been referring to this for the past few episodes, but going back to the ancient texts, how the gods back then were just beings from other planets. And I have a very strong suspicion that a lot of those beings are still controlling everything right now.
Right.
And they're in hiding, or maybe they are, maybe they aren't, but it wouldn't surprise me if they did just bring a person out and say, "Oh, I'm here to save the day." And how many people would actually believe that and fall into that? And
I mean, I think it was weird last week when we were doing our show was when the UFO whistleblower came out and said, we're not alone. There's alien crashes. We have retrieved the crash sites and the bodies. And everybody's just sitting right now hanging on, like, what is Congress going to do? Because they got the info that he sent in, right, from all the black ops. So it's like, oh, great. And then somebody put out a video of this weird looking fucking alien thing from the Vegas thing. And I showed you it, and I'm like, that just doesn't look the way, that's CGI. And everybody, even in the comments, is like, sorry. And I think we do have to pay attention, because I do feel that we're talking about frequencies and timelines. The higher the frequency and the energy, it's not as physical as we think. And I think that's the problem, you know, is that people are getting too caught up into the physical. I want to see a physical alien. Mm-hmm. I want to see a physical this. We can see in the divine understanding, in your awakening experience, it's a very metaphysical experience. It's not the physical experience so much.
Yeah. And well, everything that I've gathered from all the research that I've done over the years, it's like these ETs that come from here and go to other places. They're not going up in the sky and leaving and going to another place. They're traveling from a different dimension, in and out of other dimensions. So no, it's not going to be some ship comes down from the sky and everybody looks up in the air and says, oh my God, you know, it's not coming from another place out there. It's coming from a different dimension. And like lots of people who have genuine contact, who have had genuine contact, will say that if a UFO appears over a town and everybody can see it, that's not a legit UFO. And I very much believe that. I seriously believe that if everybody can see it, that's a man-made craft. Like a genuine ET, a genuine UFO is shifting vibrations from one dimension to the next. And if it makes itself visible, only those who vibrate at that frequency will be able to see it.
Yes.
So I don't know. Hopefully those of us who have been doing the research and maintained an open mind throughout this whole thing will be able to decipher through this crazy fucking shitstorm they're about to put us through, because I think it's going to get real confusing and real crazy here.
Yeah, and I think that's what's cool about the Judgment card is it's like keep on alignment with the divine and you'll be fine. Like it's almost like when you're in an old school war and battle, those trumpet calls, like, just keep following where's the sound coming from? And not get distracted either. Especially this 3D experience now has become distraction of programming to get you off your spiritual path, including fucking weird human-made cylinder-like fucking things that fly in the sky. You could take your drone as a fucking 4-year-old now up in the fucking sky and go all the way up.
Yeah.
It's not that marvelous.
Yeah.
What's to not say that they just encased it in a lot nicer fucking looking situation now, you know what I mean? Like, it's not that crazy.
Yeah.
But I feel that, you know, like it's going to be a crazy mess, but it doesn't have to be. I feel like that's why I love the Judgment card, because it's like the spiritual knowing is way beyond whatever the fuck happens in this reality. You make it through, no problem. I think that's what's so interesting is I feel like when we talk about NPCs or people that are not awake. This is the card of where we all get out of our own boxes. It is weird though, because not gonna lie, when you were bringing up 2020 and how much excess mortality rate there is right now, zombies were what were coming up. Do you remember that? That was a big one. And this is the only card where it's like, these motherfuckers are getting up out of the fucking coffins.
Well, I have been previewed. Let me see, what can I say? I have connected with people, as I've mentioned before,
right,
who are connected to global elites. And I was pretty much briefed on the whole plan. I'm not going to drop too much info. It wouldn't surprise me if they still had eyes on me right now. But I was not like personally, but within a group. I was in a group of people who were briefed on life insurance policies and insurance policies having in the fine print zombie apocalypse.
Right.
And it has been that way for years. And the little bitty teeny weeny fine print down there at the very bottom. And basically not come straight out and say this is what's going to happen, but just basically said, yeah, why do you think that in the fine print and a lot of these insurance policies it'll say zombie apocalypse?
Yeah.
Because that's no bullshit. Like, and it's, yeah, whoa, you know? That's about all I'm going to say on that.
Well, it's weird too, because it's actually through the insurance data of the last 3 years that it's been the realization of something gnarly's been going on, because of the fact that they've never had more claims. It happens to be corporations that all got forced to take the jab, people our age, 18 to 49, that don't ever are dying, right? And it wasn't on the death certificate is, I won't even say the name of the fucking 3D psyop that everybody said for fucking years. But it's weird that it's these insurance companies that have been also at the same time the red flag of like, something's fucking off here. And I feel like what's even weirder is the CDC did zombie apocalypse and they said it was a joke, and it was on their website for years, and then they just recently took it down. You know?
Yeah, when everybody noticed it.
And even The Walking Dead was like one of the biggest TV shows leading up to this. Now, I don't think that this card necessarily is like the Judgment's going to be a zombie apocalypse,
right?
You know, but I feel like it is one where, metaphysically speaking, what a zombie apocalypse to me is a bunch of people not paying attention to the divine, listening to their powers that they have within themselves, the powers to connect to the greatest magical life force within them. And to me, that's a zombie apocalypse right there, when people choose not to. You know?
Yeah. Well, what I took from it was, because the plan has been in place for decades, and it's unprecedented because they've never done anything quite like it in recorded history. Maybe way back, you know, in some of the ancient times it's been tried, but as far as in recorded history, it's unprecedented. So they just know that there's a very strong possibility that with all this shit we're going to be injecting you with, it seems possible.
Yeah, it's possible.
So that's why I think that's in the fine print of some of these, you know, insurance policies and whatnot. It might happen. We don't know.
Well, and I think this card can get mistaken with the High Priestess as intuitive. Whereas like, because we're on the subject, I'll just use that as an example. Why was there a small amount, but still a large of us that felt we weren't talking to each other? You and I weren't talking in 2020 or 2021, right? Maybe at the end, I think, when I got a reading, but it wasn't like we were talking. But to where there was a calling around the world of like, fuck no.
Yeah.
Okay? That's not the High Priestess card. That's a very like, you know, your own intuitive or gaining some intuition, or more importantly, she can also be a trickster in reverse. Like you could be in your illusions and yada, yada, yada. The stuff that we've been seeing has been judgment. It hasn't been the hype, you know, oh, I'm psychic, you know, and I intuitively knew. It's like, no. You had a calling. You heard it. There was just the second when I even heard, and I was somebody who, of course, voted for Trump. So the one I was like, I don't give a fuck who's up there.
Yeah.
No. When they started making that thing and when they said warp speed, operation, I'm like, I'm not part of your fucking operation. And I know that there was a divine message that we were all hearing, and you could see it through social media.
Oh, yeah.
For fucking the last couple years. That's been the judgment. When everybody gets the same calling, whereas like others be like, I have the same calling to save lives. I'm like, no, you got fucking programmed. That's not what the judgment card is, right? Like, well, not what the TVs say. It's what the heavenly divine frequencies, the heavenly energies, the divine matrix, that's a different one. You know what I mean? The divine. That's been the craziest part to me.
Dude, it made my whole life start making sense.
Right.
My life, like I've said, I've told a lot about my story, but I haven't talked a lot about my childhood. For some strange reason, when I was a kid, I had no friends. None. I was always that fucking weirdo that nobody liked. I was bullied my whole childhood. Never had friends. And my grandfather said that it was because I refused to follow the alpha. There was this one kid who was the alpha, and everybody followed, and I was the only one that wouldn't follow him. But I'm not thinking that when I'm a kid. I'm just doing my own thing. I have no clue. But anyway, long story short, my whole life, starting from childhood, I was fucked up in the head because I was never welcome into any group that I tried to be a part of. I never fit into any clique that I tried to fit into. And it just fucking drove me nuts and drove me into a deep depression throughout my 20s because it's like, I don't fucking belong here. I don't want to be here. And then whenever this shit popped off, it's like, oh, now it makes sense. I'm not supposed to fit in.
Right.
That's the reason why the universe would never let me fit in because I was never supposed to.
Right.
That light came on and it was like, dude, it all makes fucking sense now. Good.
Yeah.
Because that's when I heard that calling. You know?
It's true. It sucks because sometimes it takes fucking a long time for this card to make fucking full sense. You know what I mean? Especially on this big of a level. You should be a lucky human being to even realize that you got to experience, and you're still in it, a calling that where that door closed was meant to not be open. You know, like that's the hardest part when you look back at your life and you reflect and you're like, man, I wanted to be in that and I don't understand, or I wanted it to be like this, or fucking geez, man, like what the fuck? Oh, if I would have went down, I laugh right now, everybody, especially in Hollywood, I'm going to go fucking do this, just do acting, and then now the writers are on strike and all. It's like they got, you just see the doors just keep fucking closing on people who keep doing what they said will keep the door. Every door they said was going to be open for you, closed. You know what I mean? Like, oh, now the economy's bad, now all this, and no, you can't work from home anymore. And I just think it's hilarious. It's like everybody who did not fall, which really it's we say fall, like you fell for it, but it maybe that, I mean, maybe with the whole fucking zombie fucking them, they fell in their casket. But I think it's more that they didn't hear, and we're not talking about the hearing on the radio, the TV, a YouTube video, the media. It's a fucking high divine frequency code that just instantly comes in. And that's why I love that trumpet call. And there is the cross that also, if you want to get out of the Knights Templar, it's the cross that represents the seasons. It's the cross that represents the divine energy that connects all four seasons. It's not the Christian cross, you know.
Yeah.
It's the cross that actually has always been used, you know. And I feel like, you know, it's about connecting to all centers of your divine self, all centers of your divine path. And I feel like we come to crossroads in life, you know, and they're X Factor moments. I mean, we've covered X Factor stuff, but this is like the double way. It's like the X Factor intensified to the highest degree, the judgment. And we're in that right now. Like, it was very clear 2020. This is what you either hear it or you don't. And I think everybody heard it, but people got scared. I don't know what you feel.
Yeah. I mean, I got scared too. Shit. Scared the hell out of me. But I don't know. Like I said, it made my whole life make sense because like that's basically been the whole story of my life anyway. It scared the shit out of me. I have no, and it pissed me off too, because it was like, dude, I'm finally experiencing some success. And as soon as I climb up and start experiencing some success, now the whole thing's going to fall apart. What the fuck is this? You know,
Yeah.
It was a little bit frustrating, but I mean, I think we all personally know people who, as you worded it, fell for it. And yeah, it was out of fear. It was out of fear. They were so wrapped up in what they thought this world was, what they thought this life was, that they were completely willing to throw their common sense out the window. And when I say common sense, I'm talking a kid. I mean, a 10-year-old kid is smart enough to know that, like, when we're inside a gas station, this teeny tiny little building, you think standing 6 feet away from me is going to stop an airborne virus from transmitting? What the fuck? This little piece of glass up, you know, and then in your little mask. That's common fucking sense.
Right.
They just threw it right out the window out of fear.
It's true. Because common sense, I feel like if we as humans were supposed to block this shit, we would have had a flap that went above our face, or we would have had something that naturally, and if anything, the aliens have been the ones that have told you to do those things. Because it's so opposite of being a human, right? Stay 6 feet apart. We know that the heart frequency, you can feel that 6 feet apart, right? But that's about where it reaches. So it's like, no, don't connect to somebody else's auric field. Don't connect to somebody else's heart energy. Stay away from it. And the other thing, I mean, I might be shooting the fucking moon on this one, but I was like, this does have a temperance card kind of quality to it, the same angel, right, at the top. But then the other part to me is it's a cup. It's like a wand with the air energy. Like, you know, like there is like a trying to combine everything into this one, but being brought into a very extreme temperance. But temperance comes to a point of the natural way that the earth is built and the flow. And if I do remember right, there is a cross. There is a cross at the center of the temperance card. So it's like that's the divine earth cross, like. And that's what I think the aliens are taking over the earth. When you hear that, you think of spaceships. No, they're taking over the divine people on the divine earth to go away from the divine by paying attention to a fucking box that's telling them what to do and living in their mind. Because I think that the fear was, that's not you know what? That's logical. Stay apart. Get this technology. Which that's going to be the big fucking freakazoid that I think is going to come out. When they say it was Operation Warp Speed and that the military did it, and now it's the military with all this weird shit that's black opping for fucking 50 plus years and keeping the info. When people think, oh my God, they got the bodies or whatever, I'm like, no, what they're hiding is whatever crazy AI alien intelligence came up with the fucking operation. What if people were to wake up and realize, I took an alien injection?
Yeah. That wouldn't, you know, at this point, nothing would surprise me. Nothing would surprise me.
You know what I mean?
I heard somebody say the stupidest fucking thing I've ever heard yesterday. I walked into the gas station and there was this couple walking in front of me and they forgot their wallet. So they said, oh, go ahead and take care of this guy. So I went up and I got my stuff and I was walking out and the dude was coming back in with his wallet. And he goes, man, sorry about that. I can't wait until they just put microchips in us and then we can just scan our microchip. And I'm like, that's what he said. He like said that out loud.
Dumb.
Yeah. I'm like, oh my God. I'm hoping, because it's like right as soon as I start bragging about, man, people are awakening, then I hear some stupid shit like that. And I'm like, oh my God, there's actually people like right next to me. Like they're not just somewhere on the other side of the country. They're not just on the other side of the world. There's like people right here who are thinking like that.
Right.
Can't wait to get my microchip. I'm like, oh my God. So at this point, nothing would surprise me. But as far as like the ETs and the aliens and whatnot, not to skip around and jump around, but the negative ETs have been here.
Yeah.
They're not coming. They've been here. They came here 400,000 years ago. And 200,000 years ago, they finally created us, the perfect fucking slaves. But there's a problem. there's a problem. We're capable of more than they are,
Yeah.
but they can't let us know that. They can never let us collectively figure out how fucking powerful we are.
It's like actual pigs. You know, pigs have emotions. They're super intelligent. And it's like they have more in common with humans than people realize, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's sad because, you know, the slaughtering of pigs and so forth is like, one, it's also part of really ancient culture to not slaughter a pig. Two, there's that weirdness where the pig knows what's going on. Whereas like the chicken,
Yeah.
maybe. You know,
Well,
but the pig actually knows what's going on, and the pig is crazy because it has hair like a human. Its eyes are very human-like too.
yeah.
And it's like, if you put it in that context as somebody who might think that's crazy, right? Oh, what are you talking about? Aliens made humans, and but we're smarter than them. But it's like, no. It's look at how the pigs are, right? The way they've corralled and created, even the stupid, well, it's not stupid to me, but the book Charlotte's Web growing up and the movie, right? Like, and the spider, that's the irony of that one, the spider that's looking after the pig, you know, to make sure that he becomes the prize pig to not get slaughtered, to win the prize. That's what that whole book is about, you know? And I feel, and then even Babe, the movie, and how he becomes a sheep herder pig. Right? He's smart enough to do that. Like, people don't realize, like, humans are in the same boat. We're in the same boat where our herders are on black screens, or they put a fucking crown on them, and then they make you think, like, especially nowadays, this fucking King Charles III and all this shit and all this glam, and make people like, oh my God. And it's like, what are they doing? They're not doing anything. And people still praise them and give them their money and make them run their lives. It's the same way as the give me my fucking shit and the fucking right in the trough and let me just you know?
You know, it's funny that you said that because I have a weird mind. I get curious. I start wondering random shit. A couple of years ago, I don't even know why, but I Googled interview with a cannibal. I'm just curious as to how these weird ass people think.
Right.
And they said, what do humans taste like? Well, first of all, they said, what is the most delicious part? And they all said the butt cheeks. And they said, well, what does a human taste like? They said, pork. Tastes like pork.
Right.
And we're like so genetically similar to pigs.
I know.
It's
There's
like
some crazy real life stuff about it.
Yeah, but like people always try to compare us to apes, and it's like, no, we are way more closely related to pigs.
Correct.
So it's funny.
I'm so happy that you went there because actually I'm referring to some stuff about that, but I wasn't about to cross that bridge, but you crossed it for us, bro. I was like, okay, all right, you're on the same level. And it's nice. See, that's a judgment moment where there's people who get the same downloads. Mm-hmm. And right now it's so easy, I think, to see we're all getting the same downloads, you know what I mean? And then there's denial. I feel like when you're in denial and judgment, it's like, oh, what you are is you're missing the downloads. And then that feeling where you felt left out, and we all have felt left out, but I'm referring to how you felt left out when you were a child or when you were a teen or in your 20s. We all felt that in some sort of way until our awakenings. Mm-hmm. Then it was like, holy shit. Like that moment right now, I'm like, oh, you just got the same fucking not only download, but there's been some amazing fucking spiritual people that have been proving that humans are actually the one that is, we're evolved from pigs.
Yeah.
Not fucking apes.
Mm-hmm.
Way more evidence of that. Mm-hmm. Like it's pretty wild.
Yeah. And to speak on that, I mean, I love the way that Billy Carson puts it, that your avatar body is downloading a frequency, just like my phone. It's picking up a frequency of light coming from a tower. And we're the same way. We're picking up frequencies of information that download our consciousness. Your brain does not create consciousness, it downloads it.
Yes.
So like whenever you're out wandering around and then all of a sudden this amazing idea comes to you, you didn't come up with that idea. Most of the time you downloaded it. It was already
Right.
in the field.
Yes.
So that's how two people can come up with like the same invention and then fight over whose idea it was. It's like that was already in the field, you know?
It already was. Or in this card, how everybody at the same time is getting that same field message of when to rise up. And that's what this has been, a time to rise up. But of course, then there's the programmed version of like, rise up through protest. And it's like, no, rise up with your frequency and let's go manifest and create and change this world. Opposed to, I'm going to put a sign up that I'm unhappy. And I'm going to manifest that I'm unhappy.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have everybody watch me be unhappy. Like, you have to be the force of change, and it has to be all together. There's been some interesting things, you know, just in this last week, the school board meeting that was in Glendale, and the parents fucking showed up and fucking it turned into a brawl.
Oh, shit.
But, you know, to me, I looked at it like, that's waking up some fucking people. Like, parents are getting to a point where it's like, you're just going to teach this shit to my fucking kid that's not human. That's the alien shit that's happening right now all over the place. It's not the alien body. Like you said, that they've been in control for so long. That dark force, they've got everybody in cages. And it's the cage that's invisible. That's the thing. Also, David Icke, when he was doing the reptilian research, he went down in like South America into some very interesting countries. And he said that the lizard people, it was like this soul that would come into humans and make them cannibals. Right? And some of his first research of the whole entire subject. And I remember being like, fuck, dude, that's fucking tripped out because, you know, reptilians feed off fear. There is this dark force that feeds off fear. Look at how much fear they've thrown out. No. This is not fear. This is the wake up that it's not, there's nothing to be feared. It's a bright, sunny day. It's beautiful. Get out of your fucking coffin in the waters, the emotional coffins in the waters. That's what's crazy. All the people who voted for Joe Biden who were dead. I don't know if you remember those memes.
Yeah, we're all watching this big ass movie. I mean, I'm honestly not scared. I mean, I was in the beginning, because, like I said, I was pre-warned that it was coming, and you don't know who to trust nowadays. That's the thing. Like the people I'm referring to that I'm not going to name. At first, they came out masquerading as like a good guy who is here to help you and help warn you and whatnot, and then all the shit went down, and then I end up connecting with this person again, and then they're coming out basically like somebody who's on the side of the deep state and the dark side, bragging about the plan. And it's like we have to take a step back and think, oh my God, I don't even know who I can trust.
Right.
You don't know who you can trust. There's, especially in the spiritual community and in the conscious community, you don't know who you can trust. Like that's in today's day and age, if you're not tuned in, if you're not dialed in, I don't know what to tell you. If you haven't tuned into your internal guidance system, because we have two sides, the light and the dark, and they're both here pointing the finger at each other.
Right.
And if you haven't figured out how to tune in and pay attention, who are you going to trust?
Right.
You know? And that's what I think this moment that's coming here, it's getting to the point. That's why with what I do, I always try to figure out a way to put a hook on this little cliche shit that you've heard 100,000 times so that when it goes in one ear, it gets caught. And
yes.
So that by the time this finally does happen and it's too damn late, hopefully everybody who came here to make the shift makes the shift.
Right.
And doesn't, and of course there's going to be beings that didn't come here to make the shift. They came here because they love low vibrational fucking games. They're like the extreme sports junkies of the universe. And fine, you go play your 3D shit all you want. But hopefully you know, you just feel this, as a light worker, you feel this deep-seated sense of responsibility that I don't even know where it comes from.
I mean, it comes from the judgment card. It's the calling that has brought you down here, and then the reminder of when the moment has come to activate. Like, I feel like it's also a great activation card, the judgment card. Like, I mean, if you take it to personal relationships and stuff too, it always is.
Yeah.
You know, people like to look at like other cards as like, I feel like divine union, like really being in a true counterpart, a life partnership. Both of you are hearing a calling to do more than just the love. It's more than that. It's like of course, there's the beauty of sharing life and all so forth, but there's a higher calling that together we're on the same page, that we're here to do more than just love in the 3D way, but together see so much more and be trumpet calls out to others. And that goes with divine friendships. And now we were talking earlier about the new financial systems that will have to come out, because the only way to get rid of this darkness is like, are people intentionally wanting to do good with their money? Like it's the same thing. It's like everybody that's not on this tip anymore ain't going to be feeling good. So there's really nothing to fear, because the other thing too that's going around is the storms coming. And to me, it's more like, no, the divine intervention's coming, and it's not going to be a storm. The people in the storm are the ones that are going to be trapped in the fucking waters in their coffins. Yeah, it's going to feel like a storm.
Storms as in like the weather?
Like, like the white hat and the black.
Oh.
They always are saying the storm's coming.
Yeah.
The storm's coming. The storm. The storm. The storm. And I'm like, okay, in the 3D, yeah. But is it a storm when you understand? Like Jordan Maxwell always pointed out, the most simple basic things, about the corporation of the United States, right? And how they use maritime law. And it's like, understand all these terms. Like there's very simple terms that we use every day. Like a citizen is a citizen based upon the corporation. Are you really a citizen of the United States of America? Or are you a citizen of the corporation? Because your words or all your letters of your name are all in uppercase. The president is the same as the president as the CEO. Like there's all these things that we have to wake up out of. The storm is the people that programming of, I thought I was this.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to hide, is they don't want you to see just what you are. But you don't have to wait for Congress to release a fucking whistleblow to know who you are.
Yeah, well, I mean, the storm is us.
Yeah.
We are the storm. That's the thing, like you were saying about the school board meeting. That's what they're trying to get us to do. There's so many people still sitting back waiting for somebody to come save us. Hopefully Trump will come back and he'll save us. Hopefully this person will get this new governor and they will save us. It's like, no, they won't.
Right.
We have to save us. We have to get up off of our asses and go down there to the school board meetings and raise hell. It has to happen at the local level, and that's the way they're wanting it to happen.
Right.
They're doing all this stupid, crazy shit to try to wake us up so that we'll get pissed off and take the fucking country back, take the world back. We're the storm.
I know.
And
that's what's sad, because if you go back to what we were just talking about, the pigs in the cages, the pigs can take over. They're pretty strong. They can break through things. They can figure things out. When they get their time to roam around, they can fucking... Because you already know the pig feeders are already terrified of them. But they all don't work together to make it happen. And that's what we're seeing now. Because I feel like this is the only card where you actually see a group of people who, in the death card we already showed, they're dead, most of them, and then it's just the Hierophant and then the death himself walking through and a couple kids, but in this card, everybody's at least holding their hands up, right, and feeling the energy come down upon them, right? And I feel like that's what's going to change this. You're right. The people are the storm to the false shit. And really that storm is that trumpet call, right? It also is a card to me where it's like, you can't be afraid to make some noise. You can't be afraid to speak up. You can't be afraid to embody who you are, what you felt divine called. Too many people are clairvoyants, they're psychics, they feel all, whatever the term is, even though last week we were dogging on the terms, but because some of them pick one part of what you are entirely,
Yeah.
But I feel like that's the whole thing, is like, we all have the ability to see what's coming forward. People are afraid to put out their vision forward. Or religion gets involved where it's like, if you're only the people that wrote the Bible are prophetic and are prophets. You're not a prophet, though. You can't be a prophet.
Yeah.
It's like, that's the biggest trap there was to get, that's the dark, believe it or not. Like, you can't be a prophet, but these people who have no idea if they were even alive were the prophets. And it ended there. There's no more prophets.
Yeah.
Like, if you think of just that in itself, like, what do you mean? There's no more prophets allowed? No. Only the men through this church that get elected through the other men determine who prophets are, or who can be called by God, right? So like this is a calling of God that we're all God's divine children. Whereas in the church, it's no. The Pope is the only one that these cardinals who got in a room and scratched each other's back and who knows whatever the fuck else they do in there, decided who's the one who can hear the trumpet call of God. Mm-hmm. And if people can't understand that, that's already a big problem, which unfortunately is over a third of the world at this point now. It's almost 2/3. It's like, that's what's pretty wild is people, and right now you're seeing it happen more and more. People are retreating to their safety, which is actually their demise, which is, no, I'm just going to put all my faith in that this force is just going to just change it all, and I'm not going to be part of it. And I, when I'm at judgment, I'll get through and I'll be able to give my pass to heaven and it'll all be over. Mm-hmm. That's exactly what the dark would want you to do to lose the fight.
Yeah. Yeah, you know? They've been working very extensively, and they're still working very extensively to make you afraid to speak up. You know, they use all these shaming tactics, and that's where all this narcissistic name calling, you know, homophobe and transphobe and bigot and racist and misogynist and all these bullshit names that like they got these people. Oh, I don't want everybody to think I'm a misogynist, so I better keep my mouth shut. Oh, I don't want nobody to think I'm a homophobe, so I better keep my mouth shut. And it's working for a lot of people. But this is why we have to, as many of us need to stand up and say, no, that's fucking narcissistic manipulation. Right. And a lot of people are falling into that Stockholm syndrome, you know?
I know this because when I drive around, to see a sticker on a car anymore is rare. Every car's just a car. But I have fuck Biden on every car. And I have cars that people are like, I can't even believe you put a sticker on that car. I'm like, what do you mean? Again, that's another program. But I love rolling around and everybody is looking at me all the time like, who the fuck is in that truck? Who's in that who's in that Shelby? Who's in that? Who is in that fucking ride? And I see it everywhere. I'm like, I don't see anybody. And 10 years ago, you used to at least see people like put like coexist, or maybe like they would put like a Bernie Sanders or something. You don't see anything anymore. Everybody, and I say it in suburbia, which is most of reality, right? Most people are just like, let me get in my house and let me just, and I don't want to be too much. I don't want to break the mold here. I don't want to put anything that makes me look like I'm too, right? So it's already working so powerfully. Mm-hmm. When people walk in here, they go, what the fuck? Even when, I was nervous when I got here. I was like, what is the city going to think about this? Right? I mean, I'm in the zoning of industrial, right? So I was like, okay, yeah. Fucking every time the cops walk through here, every time the fucking fire, every time the fucking city fucking people walk through, they fucking love it.
Yeah.
They're like, you're doing something so different. There's nothing else like this anywhere else. So I'm like, even in LA.
Oh,
believe it or not, people think LA is like, oh, everybody's got studios. No, just the fucking big fucking dogs that people think are big dogs, which are all the ones that are involved in all these fucking issues that are happening right now. Mm-hmm. And that's it. Believe it or not, there is not a lot of fucking live stream studios, and they don't exist. So it's like that's what's so funny to me is like, why can't people just, to me, the judgment is like, you're judged on whether you spoke up and were yourself and blasted that tone and that, because tone is part of frequency. Mm-hmm. We all have a tone. Blast it out. You're going to change lives. We used to say that when I worked at this car dealership, when we gave away loans that were for people who had the 450 credit scores. We had a program. It sucked because the interest rate was like 40%, but it was like, hey, you can't get in a fucking car. We've got you with this one loan. And your payments might be a little bit long, but fucking, and that was during the recession, and we changed lives. And people were like, thank God. I wasn't able to get a car anywhere else. And I remember we really, it wasn't about the money for us because it was the bank making all that money. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But it was at least able to get them through the 3D bullshit.
Yeah.
And even that bank company was like, it has to be just an American car. They wouldn't do anything else. Like they had all these stipulations, but they were at least like, we see the problem and we're just trying to fucking fix it. Because how is this world going to continue if people can't drive and they don't have money, or their credit got fucked up, or they went through bankruptcy? And I remember that. Now you don't even see things like that anymore.
Yeah.
And that's the problem, is that people are just living in that fear of expression in every way, of expressing who they are. It's like, man. And I don't know why, but when I see it on car, I remember a world where, I mean, your favorite fucking band was on your car. Your favorite... People don't even do that anymore. It's like, I just want to blend in. You know? I want to be at Starbucks, and I won't say a crazy name. My name is, you know, David. I don't go to Starbucks, but if I might, of course, Sophia does, but, you know, every time I went to Starbucks, I always say some fucking crazy name. You know?
It is funny that you said that, because on my way up here, I got cut off by a truck that had 2 big impeach Biden stickers on the tailgate. Yeah. And it was funny because it was such a weird mix of emotions, because I was pissed off because this dude cut me off that close to my bumper. But then I was like, okay, well, you're cool, I guess. You know?
I know.
But yeah, I mean, it is working very well. But slowly but surely, people like me and people like you are hopefully standing up and showing people, no, you can raise your fucking voice. You can say something. And as a matter of fact, like I said, I very strongly feel like there is a good force kind of overseeing things.
Yes.
They can't intervene. They can't do that. But there is a force that is overseeing things.
It's nudging.
Yeah, it's nudging. And that's what they want us to do. They're not going to come save us. They're not going to swoop in and save the day and kick the bad guys' asses. They're not going to do that. They're going to be like, okay, well, you all need to wake the fuck up. Because if you don't, if they did come in and save us, guess what? We would just be right back where we are in 50 years.
Right. It's confirmation. That's what they do, is they nudge people and situations together and go, here's your fucking sign. You know, that was it. Oh, here's your sign, but here's your confirmation. What are you going to do with it? That's the whole thing. What are you going to do with it? It's like you are so supported by the divine in every way, but you got to actually do it. The confirmations are everywhere. That's what the judgment card is. It's like the big final blow, like the big blow, like, I don't know what else to say, but just fucking do it. You know, like it could come out anyway. And of course, people look at this as just like, what is it supposed to sound like a harp? Like, like, you know what I mean? Like it sounds however the fuck it should sound. Whatever it is that confirms to you, however it's going to be. That's the other problem, is how tone. I already went into that, but I'm not going to go deeper. But it's just like, it doesn't have to sound a certain way.
Yeah.
You know, it doesn't have to sound like, well, geez, you're playing that or you're doing this. It wasn't a sound session with a fucking sound bowl, which I love sound bowl healing, so I'm not putting it down. But I'm just saying, like, it doesn't have to just sound like that as spiritual sounds. Mm-hmm. Because confirmations can come through every fucking way, whether it's on a radio, the dude with the impeach Biden fucking on a truck cutting you off and making you be like, damn, because if that were me, you know what it happens to me, since I have all that shit on my rides? If I'm driving my one car that doesn't have that sticker, I fucking go, dude, I'm just like you. Fuck. You're probably thinking I'm some fucking... And you have to not care about that. But still, it always is that thing for me of like, motherfucker, like, I wish I was in my other fucking shit just to show this motherfucker we're on the same team. Because every motherfucker, it's like one out of every fucking, you know, probably 1 million cars, maybe 500,000. But it's just like, you know, you see him, and then when we see each other, it's always like, fuck yeah, windows down, honking horns, fuck yeah. Like, I don't see that happening on the road.
Well, not in Cali.
Only with that. Well, even in Arizona, people don't have it.
What?
Oh, dude, I go to Arizona all the time. People still fucking look at me like, damn, you got some balls.
I've seen quite a bit.
Even in Texas, dude. And I was just in Texas in October, and I drove through in my S580 Mercedes with fuck Biden on the back with the California plates, and I got a ticket for doing 101. And when the fucking cop pulled me over, he went, nice fucking sticker. Don't worry, I got you. But like, you know, like, and everybody, and I was the only Mercedes I saw on the whole trip. That was the other weird thing, right? It's like automatic, like California plates, Mercedes, but oh my God. The judgment card, you can't judge people off that. That person in that'd be like me. Well, you know, I have videos when I go on my U.S. tours. When I'm in the Midwest, especially if I'm in Nebraska, and I'm in the middle of Nebraska, not like any of the big cities. If I'm like in fucking the middle of Nebraska, and then I purposely go to like the one grocery store in the city, It's just American cars. There's no such thing as a Japanese car or a European car. It's just American cars and trucks. And when you walk in there, when they see somebody being like me, like, who the fuck is this person walking in here? Jesus Christ. And I was in there with Craig, my buddy, with fucking long hair, fucking, what's up? With the sandals on there, just like, is that the dude from fucking,
Yeah.
And like, that is a great awakening for people because they see like, wow, you're cool. You can talk to us. You're going to buy that Carl Budding fucking turkey for fucking 99 cents. Fuck yeah, it's just bomb. You're not this. That judgment can be difficult when you judge just by off the looks of something or what you assume something, and that's why, because when I drive around, I go, I know there's more people who like this than not, because I get so many little honks and little in the cars, like thumbs up. But it makes them go, why aren't I doing that? You know?
Well, that's the goal. Like I said, that's the plan, is to, what I was getting at earlier was there's a good force overseeing everything and making sure that the things happen, awaken people. But, awakening and realizing, that's just the first step. When you wake up and realize that everything you've ever been taught was a lie, good, that's the first step. When you start learning that not all, but the majority of the conspiracies were true, that's the first step. Now waking up and using your fucking voice, that's what they're trying to get us to do.
Yeah.
That's what they want to get us to do. And again, with like this show and the event that we're going to be doing and connecting with people in person so that people understand that, oh, well, even if I'm a sports fan that goes to the bar and drinks a Bud Light and watches a group of guys toss a ball around the room and yeehaw, hoot and holler over that, I can still apply spirituality to my life. It still applies to me too.
Correct.
So yeah, that's my goal with this show. And hopefully what would really be cool is if somebody was watching this and got inspired to do something similar, and we can start a whole new revolution in the spiritual community.
I agree. Well, I mean, that you said the Bud Light thing, and I remember when that happened. I remember like,
I wasn't even thinking about that.
Right? And I'm like, exactly. That's the whole point, though. Is like, to me, it didn't trigger me because I'm like, this is to trigger people intentionally. I've never seen a more intentional fuck you, motherfuckers. Even though they're going to lose money, it was done to be a big fuck you and to piss you off. If you can't see that, right? Like that's where you get lost, right? It's like you got to be like, and Joe Rogan said it best. He fucking drank one on there with Dylan Mulvaney on there. Like, it's still Bud Light. I don't give a fuck whatever the fuck they're trying to do. I'm not going to let them get me.
No, he had Dylan Mulvaney on his show?
No, he drank the beer on the show.
Oh.
Even though I don't drink, but it's like, that was the interesting part of like, don't fall for the big fucking dark fuck yous. The divine is all you have to pay attention to. Like, don't get lost in when they tried. That's them just trying to rile you up. Like this weekend was the pride flag, which went against U.S. flag code. It was on the White House and it was in the prominent position. The American flag is always in the prominent position, and every other banner or other flag needs to be after. They put the pride flag in the middle of the White House, right? So that's against flag code.
Yeah,
that's another trigger you, fuck you,
yeah.
Especially after this weekend with the indictment of Trump and all that shit, right? It's like a big, don't fall for it. Yeah. Even the indictment is one of those things like, don't get lost in this shit. They want you to get they want you to be that really, when you're frustrated and angry, you're better to eat. You taste better. Your soul energy tastes better than that dark reptilian shit.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, like with the White House and whatnot, to me, from all the research that I've done, that's another way of them getting people to say, look, it's all fake. Look, it's all bullshit. Because Joe Biden has never set foot in the fucking White House.
I know.
Not the real White House. He's on a fucking movie set.
I know.
Like I firmly believe that, that place has been emptied out and they've been using it for military tribunals.
Well, and I think that because he is once in a while on the lawn, right? He's like he's not able to get in there.
That could be a green screen behind him.
No, because I have people who take video from out. I've been in the White House many times to where, the lawn and then the gates, right? And then there's video of him, but it's weird that there has been green screen video of him on the lawn.
Oh, yeah. A lot.
Right? Where it's like the mics are up here and his hands going through it.
Yeah.
right? Or even how he just did his first presidential address from the Oval Office. And when I looked at it, I went, that's a green screen.
Well, the wallpaper's different too.
Yeah, but even just the most recent one, I'm like, it's a fucking green screen. You could see the lighting. You could see, like, you could watch, and I hated President Bush, fucking W. Bush. But when he was in the Oval Office, you could tell he's in the Oval Office, and they have the fucking background of him in the office. You could see it. You never see anything. You're not allowed to see the pictures, nothing. Mm-hmm. And there's definitely, that's where, if you want to get into the alien thing and what they're trying to hide, is what they do in manipulation to people in these boxes. I said this to one of my buddies who called me this weekend, who's a racer, because I couldn't make the races this week, or this whole year. I haven't raced this season because I'm about to have a baby. But he called me to check up on me, and he was like asking me, because he's like, I've been going through an awakening experience a lot all the time. And he has always, for like the last 6 years, him and I've talked about this shit, but I twisted him. And I was just like, what if what you're watching on TV for the last 3 years has all been AI? Because I'm like, it just got proven that in China, they even admitted it, that all their hosts on TV were AI hosts.
Guarantee it.
Through the whole 3 years of the last energy in China. So if China's doing that and whatever, and they kicked all the media out. So we only got to see whatever they choose to put out. So if they choose to show, everybody here lined up to get a shot, nobody knows that. People in China can't get their message out. Mm-hmm. And so people fall for all the shit. I mean, people are really, this is where it's like, don't listen to propaganda card, because the spiritual energy will be told to you. You'll know it and you'll hear it. If there's some people that are not on the mainstream that are in this world, and they might not be quote unquote spiritual, but they're part of the awakening and what they call it through this whole government shit. It still resonates. They don't even know what's happening in the spiritual realm of it, but they're saying the same shit in a different way, and you can hear it. So we're all getting the calling in different ways, whether it comes through political, whether it comes through sometimes even religious, or whether it comes through spiritual. There's still a common denominator that we're all getting the same signal. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what we need to look at more than it only should come through this fucking band, because that's just not how the universe works. The band is so wide.
Yeah.
The station is the same station. We can all tune into it. And we might get different variances. Old radios, I have an old one in there, an old tube radio, used to be able to change the tones if I wanted it a higher tone or a lower tone to have more bass. But back then they didn't say bass or treble. It was just like the tone. So if I wanted the AM radio to sound a little bit more bassy, you just turn the tone down if you want it higher. So it's like the same station though. And I think that we're at a place to where it's like, it doesn't matter if it's coming from a high tone or a different tone, because you want a little richness. I won't put it as dark or heavy. I'd put it as rich or a little bit more lighter, right? Like, you know what I mean? It's like the same thing. I have rich tones in here. That doesn't mean that it's dark. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And also too, to kind of take a left-hand turn on something I mentioned a couple of episodes ago, when I said I can't wait to see this religion start to be dismantled. I'm predicting that is going to be a very big picture. It's going to be a positive shift in this whole alien UFO thing. Mm-hmm. It might be a messy process while we're going through it, but this is going to start helping religion get picked apart. You know? That's a big thing that we're going to have to all get through during our spiritual awakening, is learning that, not only is all this shit around us a lie, but like for hundreds of years, all the things that we've been taught about religion and the creator of the universe and whatnot, maybe that was all a lie too. And I think that them coming out with this alien shit's really going to open some eyes. And could you imagine when people who their whole life, their parents' whole life, their grandparents' whole life, church, the Bible, Jesus, God, and this and that, not that the Bible is false, but that what I've been told about the Bible has been very misleading. What I've thought I was doing, praying to whoever supposedly the creator of the universe is, maybe I've been doing it wrong. Like I just shared a video. I green screened one of Billy Carson's videos on my shorts feed where he's talking about Amun Ra, Thoth's brother. Mm-hmm. Like that's where Amen comes from.
Right.
Amun-Ra.
Yeah.
You're actually, when
Egyptian.
when you're saying amen, you're actually giving thanks to this being from another planet who is a brutal, violent killer. He said, there will be no other gods before me.
Right.
Admitting that there are other gods.
Right.
Like, I'm a jealous God. Why would the creator of the universe be jealous? Doesn't make any sense. And it's time for people to start asking these questions. When I pray and I say amen, who am I talking to?
Right.
Why is it that whenever I pray, I'm just saying, I grew up in the church. I grew up in a real hardcore Methodist household. And from what I've witnessed in my own life and in the people that I've watched in the church, most of the time when you say a prayer, nothing fucking happens. Why is that? Why is it when I pray for something, I rarely ever fucking get it? I'm praying and praying and praying and praying and praying on a vibration of lack, need, and desperation. So I end up reverse manifesting.
Gratitude, yeah.
Yeah. So what is it that's really going on here? Hopefully, at least maybe I'll be the first person to say it, but I'm hoping that that's one thing that this UFO shit starts, the domino effect that starts, you know?
Yeah, because what you're talking about is monotheism.
Yeah.
Bringing it down to, and that's what's funny with sound frequencies, right? There's stereo and then there's mono, right? I'm going to put the same channel through both left and right, mono. So that's what happened with religion, right? Monotheism. Like, we're bringing it all to no more multiple gods. We're bringing it to one God. But then it's like, I look at as above, so below, right? This card doesn't represent monotheism because this is just a messenger. This isn't God itself. This is one of the messengers coming down, which this can be anything from Raphael to Gabriel, right? If it was Michael, there'd be a sword. So, you know, but there's a message, and that amen, like you was going to, and Thoth was the one that understood all the esoteric knowledge and all the knowledge of everything, basically, was the living library of the energy. So I feel like it's one of those moments in life to where we have to realize, as above, so below. There's all these humans down here. There's all these other things. Does it all just go to one? I understand source energy and the oneness, but it's about understanding that we're all one. It doesn't mean that it's one thing and then all of us down here.
Yeah.
Nobody knows what that looks like. At the end of the day, we know we're all one. If anything, I feel like we're on the ride with God together. You know what I mean? Like, God's evolving while we're evolving. Like, I don't feel like God feels like separate.
Yeah.
Right? Like, oh, no. They're here and I'm here. I think it's quite opposite. I feel like it's all in the same energy. I feel like we're all in the same thing right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think the best example would be, I have a cell phone right here. You have a cell phone right there. Where are they picking up their internet signal from? They're both picking up their information from the same source.
Yeah, it might be the different router, but
yeah,
we're getting the same info.
Yeah, I mean, and I mean, well, that internet router is getting it from somewhere.
It's all connected to the same shit.
It's all coming from one place, and that's the best way to describe all of us. You know, we're downloading our consciousness into this avatar body, and it's coming from the same place. You know, your higher self has a higher self, and then there's a higher self above that, and then a higher self above that, and to where it gets just fucking beyond anything that our little teeny ego brains could even begin to comprehend. Because another thing that I'm going to be getting into teaching and mastering the matrix on High Vibe is your brain, your human ego brain, is only capable of processing 4,000 bits of information per second. At any given time, when you look around you, or just what's going on around you, there's 400 billion bits of information around you at any given time. And your brain can only process 4,000 of those 400 billion bits. So here we are driving ourselves nuts trying to figure this shit out when our brain isn't even capable of doing that.
Right.
You know? And it's not a figuring out with the ego analytical thinking brain. It's much more of a shutting the ego up.
Right.
Because the more this thing is thinking and trying to figure out and logically understand it all, the more we're getting in our own fucking way. And then we come up with stupid ass shit like there's some dude sitting in the clouds. Well, that has to be it. That's the only thing my fucking brain can comprehend. Yeah, it makes sense. It makes logical sense to a human brain, but it's so much bigger than that.
Well, and if you think of like in computers and monitors, there's 500 frame per second monitors that have just come out, right? There's the bits of light that are coming through different monitors. There's frequencies, right? You can have 120 hertz televisions now. You can have 240 hertz fucking monitors. They're now up to 500. And when you start looking at those bits that create that, it's more than what the human mind is doing in the physical reality. But there's other parts of the brain that are not stuck in this 3D that can see through that. Mm-hmm. I think when you said that it's stuff that we can't even comprehend, that's so judgment to me. Like, it just gets to a point to where there's some source, there's some information that's so above the physical. Beyond, this is the only card that's like, it's so above the physical. You got to learn to transcend that. But at the same time, transmute has been really a big part of this show. It's like transmute the energy, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's what happens is if this reality has so many things coming at you and so many things tricking your brain and programming your brain, and you don't know how to deprogram, that's the problem. Because the main thing, and I know that programming can be so simple, like, oh, you've been programmed so you don't understand. It's more like you've been programmed to stop hearing this higher frequency and tone.
Yep.
And when that happens, that's why the programming is bad. We all have programming, and we all are on a lifelong, till the very end of our lives, deprogram till the end. There will be a deprogram. The biggest deprogram is on your deathbed. Mm-hmm. That'll be the last deprogram, because everything that you're programmed to be, expect to be, look like, do, be like, all of it won't matter anymore. That'll be the ultimate unprogramming. Like, what the fuck? Okay, here we go. But that's the only way you can go. That's how you know. There was just an article I saw today about, for years, like thousands of years, like people would just die, like, and then CPR came out. And so people were able to be revived 3-4 minutes later than normal. Now it's getting up to where people are being revived after like 20 minutes. That there's still neurons in the brain that are still there that they're able to activate and get people to come back. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, it's like, is that the program that's still keeping us in? Maybe. Or there are some higher frequencies that we have that some people may have. I would be interested to see a big study of like, what was the person's spirituality like that got brought back?
Oh man, I did
that. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. Opposed to the person who is like in the program and then just automatically like, I guess this is over. Okay, I'm done. Bye.
That's one thing that I have done so much research on. Like the beginning of my spiritual journey began with near-death experiences. I have done thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of research on near-death experiences, and I mean, basically, the general consensus is whenever you die and go over to like people who die and come back, most people don't go all the way over to the other side.
Yeah.
Like even me during my NDE, I was vibrating at a way too low of a frequency to make it very far over. I just made it over to the lower astral realm, and I was bummed out when I came back too, because up to that point, I've heard so many different NDE stories. Like, man, I want to see the beautiful fucking white light and get all these downloads of universal knowledge and understanding. I was vibing too low for that shit. When I was in the lower astral realm, this is the place where fucking lost souls and ghosts hang out. Yeah. And now it makes sense whenever you see like footage of ghosts acting crazy. I understand, because I've been there. I've been a ghost before. I was a ghost probably for like 5 minutes, and there's no thoughts. There were no human thoughts. I was just there. There was no, oh fuck, how did I get here? Where am I at? I was just there, existing.
I mean, that reminds me of these gray beings and the humans in this card.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Right? And it's funny because they're in the lower and they're black shadowed coffins in the waters. That's the interesting part too, is the emotional traps that we can... Really, if you think about it, judgment might be a mental thing, but I think it's much more of an emotional thing because it triggers your emotion. Like if you get like, oh my God, I don't want to be judged by God the wrong way.
Yeah.
Right? Or I'm judging this person because of some condition. Emotions are conditioned.
Yeah.
Like you said, when you were in a low vibrational emotional state is what brought you there. It wasn't like we think our mind does, but really that's like what you're teaching. It's how the mind and the emotions have to work together. It's always the emotions that pull us down. They emotionally, and then our mind sits there and goes, I can't understand this, and that's mental illness right away. It just goes into pop, disconnect. It's like that people talk about the chords of relationships. It's like you need to focus on the chords that you need to connect in your mind, your body, your soul, your heart, and all those things first. Everybody's so worried about the chord of my ex. I'm like, you still haven't figured out the chord of your fucking damn heart and your mind yet. You know what I mean? Or your emotions in your mind.
Yep.
That's the problem.
Yeah, and that's a big part of what I'm going to be teaching in that series too. You know, the next pay-per-view video I'm going to be doing is basically how your brain works like a radio, the neuroscience behind the frequency that you're tuned into. And then the further along we go, I'm going to be talking about how to deprogram that, because we're all brainwashed. Every last one of us. We are brainwashed and programmed. If you think you're not, you're sorely mistaken. I'm brainwashed and programmed. You're brainwashed and programmed. We all are. The question is not, am I brainwashed and programmed? The question is, who's doing the brainwashing? Who's doing the programming? Is it my peers around me? Is it the fucking news? Well, you know, am I still programmed by the bullshit that I learned in school as a kid? Or am I taking conscious control of what I'm allowing into my mind? Am I taking conscious control and going to the fucking psychological gym and forcing new thoughts in there to rewrite new connections in my brain?
Yes.
Because that's what we're needing to do. That needs to be mainstream knowledge. I said that in another episode. I'll fucking say it again. My goal is to play a part in making this information so fucking ubiquitous that we're not even talking about it. It's like, duh. Because and I was talking to Leah about this today. If the solution to the problem is so fucking simple, because right now we got all these celebrities, the Cardi B's and the fucking, you know, all these people up here
whoever they are.
Yeah, are promoting all this dark shit. And it's captivating the minds of young kids. And they've been doing it for decades. We get all the Cardi B's and all these fucking people and the Beyoncé's and all to actually start putting out a positive message and start talking about, you know, how to reprogram your brain, things to think about, healthy things to do, go to the gym. I'm not eating that fucking McDonald's. That shit's nasty. It's so easy because the celebrities and whatnot have been created to control your mind. And what we really need to do is we really need to get people
agenda-based too, mind.
Yeah, on an agenda of undoing that programming. But until we get there, we're going to have to take control of it and do it ourselves.
Right. Somebody actually in High Vibe just asked, what do we think of med beds? And I was going to say, that's a weird thing to me, because I feel like we have the ability, that's another program of like, there's something that can save my body and fix me that I can't do.
Yeah.
And that feels very reptilian, alien to me. And I really am upset that this quote unquote white hat community says, oh, the med beds thing, we've got all that. And it's like, you can't take everything.
No.
Right? Like, you know, because if anything, they got to put out stuff to make people to feel like there's some hope.
Well,
and like, or that they have something, and I'm sure maybe there are. I'm not gonna say there probably isn't some med bed that fixes you up like a motherfucker. But again, it's laziness to me, where it's like, you have the power to shift the willpower within you. The willpower of somebody who has stage 4 cancer to get out of that shit is on you. It's on you. It's not on the bed. It's not on the chemo. It's not on the whatever. Yeah. It's the fucking will in yourself.
Yeah, I mean, I do have something to say about that, though. I mean, with the med beds, I heard an interview with somebody who is very in there with that technology, working with the med beds and whatnot, and they were answering some questions about it. And even they said, but by the time these things come out, and they will, but it's not going to be like, oh, okay, well, I just go in this thing and it fixes me and I can just do whatever I want. Oh, no. If you're going to go into one of these med beds and reset your body, you got to start making good habits. Like if you smoked and drank and ate shit food your whole life, cool, it can fix that. But you're not just going to go into the med bed and then go back and keep smoking and drinking and shit. You're still going to have to, you got to work with it.
I mean, it's just like in Reiki or in healing, in all the healing modalities. It's the same thing. You just don't show up. And it also is your emotional state, your mental. That's why I was saying originally, it really is you and your willingness to be here, your willingness to be evolved. And more importantly, be in an awakening experience that you understand that you're going through a change. Like I feel like when I've had Reiki done on me, it's like, man, when good Reiki people go in you and they pull and they take these things that I'm like, how did they know that's
they don't
in me? And like, but they do once they're in there.
Oh
you know?
yeah.
And it's like the stuff that they can push away and also be like, this chakra was way out of line. I pushed that out and I pulled this out. And man, you know, to me, that's the best med there is.
Well,
that's
one thing. That's one thing that me and Leah are going to be offering in the event too. Is she?
Oh yeah, that's right. We were talking about that.
We both channel a frequency, and we gave an in-person session to somebody a few days ago who sat and explained like in detail what we did, and like we worked together as a team to where I push the energy in and Leah pulls it out, and yeah, it's pretty amazing. We're going to be doing that for the event.
That's interesting because especially the focus on the in and the out with two people, that's mind blowing because to do both, and trust me, there's great Reiki people out there that could do both, of course. Mm-hmm. But you know, like when I've done Reiki, I've always been an out person too. Like I know how to like see something, like, you can get that shit out of here, you know. But and I can make sense with you being like, I know what to put in, you know. But I've always been more of a let me pull that out of you, like, ugh.
Well, I mean,
oh, what is that?
Yeah,
you know. But I'm not good at putting it in.
Well, I mean, the frequency that I channel is a frequency that I don't put any conscious intention into it. I open the door. The only intention that I give it is, of course, you have to be willing to accept it. As long as you willingly are willing to accept it, then I just open the door. It goes in there and it knows what to do. Right. All I do is I just open the door.
Yeah.
And
well, you just found out you were a projector in human design, so it makes sense.
Yeah.
Hey, Rich is a fucking projector. We just found this out.
Yeah. I mean, after looking at that too, it makes a lot more sense. Now, I'm not an expert. I don't know all the details about it, but the little things that I have been hearing do make perfect fucking sense. Because when they say wait for the invitation, I've been that way my whole life.
It's about the recognition to wait for too. Like this person sees me.
Yeah.
And I know that this invitation is exactly what I've been studying on, that I have the awareness to come in and make it better for it. That's the projector role. The projector role is on the highest auric level.
Yeah.
Which is why you can open those doors. And that's what's kind of interesting about human design and astrology, but especially the human design aspect with auric fields, because it's like, if you look at your chart, you're just so open, dude. Like it's insane, you know? And people that are projectors are very rare. It's only 22% of the population.
Yeah.
And it's like, but you guys are the most auric field. Like people can feel your presence just anywhere they go. That's why you've probably felt your whole life like shit, fucking, I don't know about people and shit. You know why? Because everybody can feel they can feel your eyes. Because you can see through. You have the X-ray vision on the people, and you know that's what projectors do so well. So I think it's really interesting though thinking about this card, right? Like we all are unique and different, and we all have to come together. This is also a come together card of that divine mission. That's why it's divine intervention, right? And I feel like we're all unique in our own way, whether we use astrology or whatever your cards that you pulled. But in human design, it definitely bridges the understanding of auric fields so well. And how to use them and how to respond. Because in life, we're responding. We're responding to the energy, you know? And I feel like that's what's so important about human design. And when I found out you were a projector, I was like, oh, and he's a splenic projector, and he's a 4/6. I was like, oh, shit. Because you really are the role model, you know? You're here to role model for people. But that 4 is the opportunistic, which is all about people. And that's what's the interesting part is like, it's only until you find the right groups and tribes that you can even do the role model thing. Because you're not going to be a good role model for everybody stuck in the fucking matrix bullshit.
Yeah. And it, like I said, it makes sense now, but it sucked at first.
First 30 years sucked bad.
First 30. Yeah. And it's so funny too, because it was 30 years exactly.
Yeah, isn't that weird?
The year I turned 30 is the year that my life went and turned around and started heading in a different direction. It was amazing. But I felt it coming on because I can remember, and if I could pull it up and show you, or I put a video on my old Facebook when I was 29, where I even said, you know, I'm gonna transform in my 30s. Yeah. When in my 30s, I'm not even gonna recognize the guy I was. I didn't know how it was gonna happen. You know, life sucked. If you have
Right.
if you're a projector and you have a life path like mine, I feel for you because it sucked. And I tried to leave. I tried to bitch out.
I was just thinking because it was just a couple shows ago. You went into, you know, your suicide attempt in 2015, right before you're turning 30. You're born 87, so it's like you're fucking right there,
88.
right? Or 88, right?
Yeah.
So you're like right there. And like, boom, dude, it's like you just had those couple years. And it's what's weird is that you're big. I mean, I got to see some of Rich's videos when he was 21, and I fucking loved him. And it was weird because it was exactly the same years I was putting out crazy content on YouTube too. And him and I was looking at him like, and then it was funny. Right after you left, I talked to Natalie about it. Natalie's like, you two would have gotten along too good then. Just how you get along now, but that was the wrong time because what if we would have met then?
Yeah.
We wouldn't be doing this.
Oh,
like
no.
we probably would have ended up fucking on the wrong side of the tracks. We would have been at the bridge way earlier.
Shit, yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I was so fucking lost and gone. And those videos are still up. I leave them up there for everybody to see. It's embarrassing as fuck.
I see. I don't think I love them.
I think it's
I think they're
embarrassing.
great.
And so many people have showed up in my inbox like, I can't believe this was you. I'm like, yeah, that was me. But I leave it up there for a reason. And the reason I leave it up there is because I'm always talking about growth and evolution. And I don't believe in talking about something without showing you. Like, you're going to watch me. And just within the past 3 years, go back to look at my videos 2020. I was a big fat bastard fucking like, even in the last 3 years, I've grown and evolved. So that's why I leave all that up there so that, yeah, you're going to listen to me talk about growth, evolution, and manifestation. But more importantly, you're going to fucking watch me do it.
That's why the Temperance card to me, which is interesting that there is the other angel that sits, right? Like this, like, I should probably pull the fucking Temperance card out, but you know, it's like that's what's interesting is the natural evolution of the earth, the flowing of the. Yeah, you got it. Yep, there it is. Same hair, same face.
Oh wow!
Right? Like fucking
wow.
right? Same wings. It's the natural divine flow. There's also the cross, or that's a pyramid. It's a triangle. That's the interesting part. It goes from triangle to square, trine to fixed moment, fixed cross in astrology. So it goes from we're at the peaceful tranquility of the universe, now it works. And then there comes a judgment in life where it's like, it's going to be a fixed cross, which we're in right now, actually. We're at a fixed cross, or it could be a cardinal cross, or it could be a mutable cross, but it's a cross. And when you're in a cross where all the planets are on 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 90 degrees, 180, 180, again, holy fuck, there comes a judgment moment in these moments. And we're at it right now. But I feel like that's what's interesting is like, she's real calm or he's calm. But then there's a moment where it's like, can't just be calm anymore. And it's natural to go back and forth. The problem with the spiritual community, with the idea of that spirituality must be calm only, is false. It reminds me of William Wallace back in the Scottish Revolution, right? Mm-hmm. Braveheart. And the atrocities that were happening and what the English were doing to the Scot. Did you ever watch Braveheart?
It's been years.
You know, with Mel Gibson. Like that he had a spiritual calling to fucking raise these people up out of their low vibes that were just like, no, they're too big. We're just going to fucking let them rape our fucking new wives and do all this shit. Because that's what the English did. Because they wanted to spread English and get rid of Scottish. So they said every new wife of any Scotsman must be, the lord of that reign must bed that woman before the husband on the night of the wedding. Right? So they were trying to get rid of Scottish by making
breed them out. Yeah.
Try to breed them out. And fucking he stood up because his wife got fucking, he had a secret wedding, his wife gets killed, and he fucking goes fucking to change fucking the world. And he rallies them all up. That's spiritual. Mm-hmm. People are so lost, and it's got to look and sound like it's up in the mountains. And, there was a story that Natalie and I did, and I don't know how, I want to get the projector, your take on this. So these two guys, these Chinese guys were climbing Mount Everest like a month ago, and they got right before the top. And then some woman was passed out unconscious on the trail. And they decided to, instead of going to that spot, take her and bring her down. They both end up dying, but she survives.
Oh, shit. Yeah. That's what they should have done.
You think that's what they should have done?
That's what I would have done. I mean, that's probably what I would have done. Like, I would not probably be able to live with myself if I saw somebody, like I just walked past somebody dying that I could have saved. I would. I don't know if I'm not saying that's the right thing to do. I'm just like, if I put myself in that situation, yeah, that's probably what I would have done.
My question about the whole story was like, how is she by herself, unconscious, right before the end of the fucking mountain, and nobody else is around? Where are the other people? Right? 2, I was like, it sounds more like a story than an actual thing.
Oh,
like,
so that's where you're going.
That's
with
where
this.
because
okay.
I'm like, are they just pulling on the strings of people of going back to the do good, like, I'm taking this shot and I'm putting on this mask to save other people.
Yeah.
Because why would this woman be by herself right before the fucking... To climb Mount Everest is... I just watched Arnold Schwarzenegger's documentary, and like that's what drove him to be who he is today. There was the first climber that reached the top, and that's what he watched because, you know, he was living in Austria when he was born. Mm-hmm. His dad was a Nazi. And fucking, he watched that, and that's what made him be Mr. Universe to all the way to governor to, right? Right? So I'm like, to get there is a very small amount of people. How did this woman just randomly get there, but didn't get there and is unconscious and people left her? It just doesn't make sense, although the universe doesn't make sense at the same time. But I feel like I'm almost like, and then they both lost their lives doing it. Yeah, but she survived when she's unconscious and they're not, and they have no problem getting up there. Something's off about the story to me.
Yeah, I could see where you're going with that. That wouldn't surprise me because, I mean, dude, that's the reason why I don't watch the fucking news. I mean, I wish I could. Like, I see people like you know, you look at news stories and stuff like that, and you can, but when I look at that shit, it just pisses me off. Yeah. When I look at news stories, I just get mad. So I just ignore it. Because I haven't figured out how to regulate. Because I know it's just all a big movie and it's all a bunch of bullshit, but I still haven't figured out how to regulate that trigger yet to where I can look at news stories. And
your auric field is so fucking... There is no filter. You're a Camel non-filter. There's no filter on your cigarette, bro. Yeah. So you got to remember, like, I'm a decoder. So, like, you know, like for me with the astrology of being a mundane astrologer is what it's called, is like I'm taking world events and I predict world events. So for me, it's like it's just data to me. And I look through the fucking story. I don't get emotional about it. I'm like, okay, this woman's unconscious. How did she get 400 meters up until fucking the peak? And people just left her there. And these two guys happened to die doing it when she's the one unconscious that's been left for dead for God knows how long. And they were in great top condition, ready to get to the top of the mountain. Mm-hmm. There's something off about the story. Mm-hmm. So, like, but with people who have very high auric fields, especially projectors, like you're here to study what is in your own understanding about things, and you're deprogramming. And so you don't want any more program.
Yeah.
Because projectors get programmed the most, and it's the deprogramming that's the most powerful to guide. Yeah. You know, where it's like, you know, and actually the programming of a of a generator or manifesting generator is always slave, like overdoing ourselves or taking on too much or saying yes to everything or, you know, committing to something and realizing, oh shit, once I've connected my energy to there's no stopping until I fucking have to go through the train wreck to stop it, you know? So I don't know. I could see that. And I feel that there's a lot of people now, even if they're not a projector, the auric field of all of us has gotten so wide and so much better. That's why they're throwing all this shit. And a lot of it is like, if you can stay on this tip and keep that as your central, you know, fucking, if you can keep that as your central understanding of that there's a divine message that's having you to be the unique code of yourself and to express that self, then for somebody like me, I can look through those stories and not get emotional about it. I don't get emotional about the stories. I'm just like, oh, look at this. And I get more emotional about the reaction to people.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Story.
It pisses me off. Like I don't get emotional about the story. Like when I look at I immediately know that's just a bunch of bullshit, and it just pisses me off. I get mad. I'm like, I can't believe this shit is still being allowed to happen. And there's people out there buying it. You know, like I just seeing the programming happening and the sheep following it, and they're still doing it, and it just pisses me off. I'm one of those people that I wish they would just cut the shit off, or at least start telling the truth, at least start being realistic. I don't know. I haven't figured out how to regulate that. Like I look at a news story and I just get mad, and not because of the story, just because it's bullshit. I don't like lies. I don't like deception. I don't like that manipulation, that dark manipulation. And I really don't like seeing people sitting around falling for it. It pisses me off.
Well, it's funny because now people on High Vibe are telling me, oh, now that the two hikers survived. I'm like, okay, well then that's a different story. But from what I remember in the story is that they died. So it's like they're fucking with people.
Probably.
You know how many stories have changed in the last, Yeah. That's been, I think, the weirdest part, too, is like the divine message story changes in frequency with the flow that's natural. Like it's common sense frequency shit. But the shit that we're seeing in this world today, the last 3 years especially, but if you, again, you and I keep always referring back, like this shit's been going on for fucking so long.
Yeah.
But the fastness of how fast they change something. Like this is true. Oh wait, you know what? That's not true anymore. Or yeah, this is gonna work. You will never get this if you take this. Oh wait, never mind. Now you're gonna have to put on a mask. Now you're gonna have to wear two. Now you're not gonna have to wear one. No, now they don't work. They never worked ever. When originally they said they never worked. Mm-hmm. So it's like the manipulation. That's really what it is, and learning how to. It definitely, I feel, is a spiritual thing, but the stuff in the mind that you're going deeper in, and especially in your next special, the manipulation, it's so subconscious now and it's mental. They throw it in the minefields. It's a minefield. That's what's so weird, right? Like we hear minefield and we think, oh, the fields with mines. No, it's a minefield now where they have bombs set up everywhere. And if you're not privy to it, and you're just I can get through whatever without having an understanding of like, oh my gosh, because you could catch yourself in the middle of being programmed and having, holy shit, let me get out of that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep, I've done that. Like I said a little bit ago, we're all still regular humans. You can fall off track.
I know.
Like you awaken and people think that there's this finish line. Like, oh, I'm awake now. And then it's like, oh no. Now there's going to be another trap. And then you awaken to that, and then you're up on the next level, and then there's just the traps and the mines, like you put it. Like, I mean, they get more intricate, and it's really easy to get pulled off track. And the best thing you can do is train your brain. I mean, you have to train your focus. People ask me all the time, what should I be focused on? And it's like, don't worry about what you should focus on. Worry about that later, but first worry about what you should stop focusing on. Mm-hmm. And when you train yourself, eventually you'll write new connections in your brain and you'll be able to just not focus on it.
Right.
And it takes some time, though. It takes a lot of time.
It takes time because, I had panic disorder for years. And I remember, and there are good psychiatrists out there and psychologists. And they were like, you've gone to where you're panicking about having a panic attack. That leads to agoraphobic, which I was agoraphobic for 6 months. I was having panic attacks for years that slowly crept on. And I wired my brain to be that way. And that was the hardest thing for them to get through to me, that when I finally did, was the final first doorway out. Was like, now I have to rewire that I'm not going to have a panic attack. And know how to tell my brain, it's okay if I feel this way, and stop instead of tripping ourselves out. Because anxiety is something that in this community, I would say, is the fucking one common denominator you get. When you go through the awakening experience, there's anxiety. And so then you start, especially when you go through your awakening experience, I feel like everybody, the Kundalini experience is a massive panic attack. You know what I mean? That just fucking happens for a long time. And I feel like that's like the thing that, once you get through that, you realize I wired myself of constantly thinking this is going to go bad. This is going to go bad, because all you see is what was a lie, what was a manipulation. But you have to learn, it's not like, you were as manipulated as maybe you think. We all got brought here. It was a natural thing. Part of the awakening experiences is a divine intervention waking you up, and you have to see the good in that. And you have to train yourself to listen to that instead of get back into it, because that's how they keep you back in with the anxiety and the panic, right? Is like to now you've awakened to get out of it, but then now you're afraid of how your body feels through it and the transitions of all the new neuroways and pathways and all the frequencies that you're feeling, and how to train yourself to be like, you know what? That's what this is in this moment. Okay. And then move on and know how to move into a different space of your mind, because that's the number one thing with panic disorder, is because it's not the, oh my gosh, once you start raising all the cortisol, it's like, oh my God, like it's not like a tiger's in my bedroom right now. Mm-hmm. And then it just turns into where you continually train your mind. So the panic disorder, anxiety, so many of the mental health issues we see are your brain's patterns that you get programmed into, but then you continually, subconsciously, and usually sometimes repressed or suppressed, just keep doing.
Yeah.
And then that's where it gets you to that place. People put it on, oh my God, I'm being psychically attacked.
Yeah.
It's like you brought up having better shields.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, no, a psychic attack is not going to make you have panic disorder all the time.
Yeah.
And the aliens are not going to make you have panic disorder. There's definitely where I do feel there's some of that, though, but I don't think it's enough to where what they've done is they've created you to be not know how to use your soul mind. Really, it's what it is the soul connecting to the mind and learning how to work together. Mm-hmm. Is that what you would say it is in many ways?
Yeah. Yeah. And for me personally, because I was diagnosed with severe clinical anxiety disorder and severe clinical depression. And for me, you know what? You know how I got over it? Exposure therapy.
Yes.
I was
going to go into that, but
yeah, I ended up experiencing my worst nightmares when I went homeless. I remember laying up under that bridge like, well, here I am. Okay. Nothing more to panic about now because it fucking happened.
Right.
And then I started noticing, like, you know what? This isn't as bad as I thought it would be. It sucked, but it's not as bad as my imagination was painting it out to be. So I got into this mentality of, well, then I'm not going to let that fear of a bad thing happening control any action that I take. Because now whenever I get into that, oh my God, what if this happens? I'm like, okay, well then it fucking happens.
Yes.
Let it happen. Like that's one thing that going homeless and living on the streets for 6 months taught me. Fucking let it happen then. If it's going to happen, it's going to happen.
Right.
You know, well, what if I get arrested? No, fuck, I get arrested. I remember one time I got arrested for trespassing, and when they were taking me to jail, the cop apologized. He was like, man, I'm sorry. I know this is some bullshit, but I'm just doing my job. I'm like, dude, you're giving me a place to fucking sleep for the night. I get a roof over my head and a fucking couple free meals. This is awesome. And I just really got into this place where it was like, fuck, let it happen then. It's all going to come crashing down, let it crash. And then I started noticing that my anxiety was getting lower and lower and lower. And then after about a year, 2 years of just being in that vibration of I'm not, because see what we do when we get into that feeling of anxiety, what we do is we start making decisions based on fear and anxiety. So when I make a decision or I take an action, the energy that influences that decision and that action, I'm pumping energy into the matrix. So when I pump that energy into the matrix gives it back to me. So it sends me an experience that reflects that fear and anxiety, and it feeds itself. It's a cyclical, self-feeding system. So when I stop making decisions based on fear and anxiety, I'm just like, well, fucking let it happen. Then all of a sudden, shit started working out. Now, these horrible things aren't happening, and I'm not even being presented with evidence that supports that they may. So then my anxiety started going down and down and down, and then before you know it, 2 years later, I don't even remember what fucking anxiety feels like. It's gone.
Yes. Well, I was going to say, that's what I think the hard part about this judgment card is the reliance upon the angels are going to save the day, or the save the day. It's the save the day complex, right? Where it's like somebody's going to save the day. So it's like, I got the glimmer of hope, and then what happens? I'm now just throwing away my work I have to do, my spiritual work. Because what you just described is exactly what it is. Exposure therapy, which is a bitch. Whether you have to get to that place like you, homeless under a bridge, and be like, well, there's nothing more left. Or going back to that fucking restaurant where you had a panic attack on and where you don't sit in booths anymore. Getting to where you're next to people again when you were having anxiety all the time because you're in a crowd full of people, and getting right back in the middle of that crowd and being like, I'm okay in the middle of this shit. It's fucking gnarly work. But when you have this savior complex, right, where it becomes, oh, you know what? I have a crystal and it's gone. Because that reminds me of that. Or, you know, like my guides, like, because I wrote in my journal through all my 2.5 years of panic disorder. I kept writing, well, the astrology's turning to where by this time it should be over. And it wasn't. And then it was like the next one. It'll be over by here. But they were markers, but they were markers of, you should be doing this shit now, right? So it was like, when it finally ended and the real astrology transit ended and I was able to look back at it, I was like, holy shit, that whole time, what I was the most afraid to do, because I didn't want to be thought I was crazy, right, was to just go talk to a therapist. That was my number one fear, that I would be thought I would be crazy, or that I would have some really bad mental health disorder, like really bad, like bipolar or something like that, right? When I got into my outpatient program, they literally looked at me and were like, oh, after 5 weeks, because they do the full 5-week assessment, 4 hours a day of group therapy every day. And then I would come and then I started my first studio in 2015. And it was like a 1,200-foot studio, and I was painting the green screen walls every day. And I remember it was tough, but I kept doing it. I showed up every morning and did it 5 days a week. And at the very end, they looked at me and they went, well, you're not bipolar. You don't have this. You're not that. And group therapy will fucking expose you to like, oh shit, I thought my problems were bad.
Yeah.
Holy shit. But it was my number one fear was the answer. And so sometimes I feel like that's what's so weird about this card, because they're all in fear, because they're obviously gray and they're sitting in their shadows and in their boxes. And here comes this moment. Well, it's more than just lifting your hands up and being like, hail God, yes, me too. You know, it's I'm getting out of this box and I'm not going to stay in this box anymore. And I'm going to do something more than this. And that's, I think, the problem is that people just expect, well, I'm shifting timelines because I'm a good person. There's some deeper work to be done all the time. The universe isn't here to just be like, yeah, you're just here to chill out.
Yeah.
You know? And that's why I love Eckhart Tolle, because, you know, he was about to commit suicide. He wasn't at a bridge, but he was on a bench. And that's when he looked at a tree, and that's when he found the present moment, right? And was paying attention that it was just a tree to him normally, just trees, just matrix shit. And then he was able to focus on the tree and look at it. That's from his first book, The Power of Now. But that book helped me out so much back in my spiritual journey, being like, holy shit. Because the matrix to me is more of the unconscious, just looking at it just like, and being stuck in the dark mind that's programmed. Instead of looking at like, look at this experience of what's happening here. That's the other part of this card. It's like, look at what's going on. And seeing through it, and then the power of what you do within it. And that's the stuff you're talking about. That fucking work you had to do. And even the work I had to do. It's all in my journal. I journaled the whole 2.5 years, and even my dreams every night. And then in the morning would write it, and then at the end of the day, and there were so many correlations with what my dreams were trying to show me in the day. Like I would have a dream in my high school, which I hadn't seen in 10 years at the time. And my buddy called, some like not major emergency, but like, hey, it'd be good to see you. Can you come by? I'm like, okay, I guess I'm going to drive to your house. And I drove by my high school that day and I was like, what the fuck? Right? And I started like finding all these very interesting things that the universe is talking to us through everything, whether it's dreams, whether it's through, when you think of your friend out of nowhere and then they call, that ain't coincidence. And I know that people know that, but like the Judgment card it's what understands all that stuff. That you have to be embodied with it. You can't You can't be a fucking Hot Topic fanatic and not listen to the music.
That's so funny that you said that. Did you catch that reel that I put on Instagram?
Yes, I mean, I know. And then the story that you guys were there.
Because this was right after we gave that in-person session that I told you about. And we gave a session to a reflector.
Yeah.
And when we were done with that session, we were like, whoa, whoa. Right. And we were both like, oh my God, I feel fucking amazing. And we didn't want to get caught in that lovely SoCal fucking rush hour traffic. So she's like, let's just walk around somewhere for a little bit, until rush hour's over. So we went to the mall, the Santa Ana Mall, and we went into Hot Topic. And I'm thinking, oh my God, do we want to go up in here? And of course the vibration is very low. It's very satanic and whatnot. But we're looking at shit and zooming, just like, wow. And I'm standing at this display. It's this big, tall metal display. And I'm looking at, I don't even remember what it was, some shit. Earrings, something. And then this other kid comes up on the other side of it, and he's looking at stuff too. I'm not thinking nothing of it. And then I turn over to Leah. Me and Leah turn our backs, and then we hear, and everybody turned around and looked, and this kid is laying on the floor. And that display is laying on the floor. Glass shattered everywhere. And he's holding his head. And my first words were, what the fuck just happened? And everybody's just staring at him.
Yeah, it's not like those cases have a lot in there. I mean, it's usually like earrings to patches for your fucking jacket to necklace. Like, it's not like heavy, big item shit.
Yeah, I don't know what it was. And so I went and I was like, here, because it was two girls working. So I helped them pick the display up and shit. And then me and Leah were walking out like, what the hell? We're trying to paint a picture in our mind of how that happened. The kid was just standing there looking at the display. Right. And there was no movement. I don't know. Did he trip over his? I don't know. I don't know what happened. But I said, you know what it was? We carried a heavy fucking energy into that low vibrational place.
Yeah.
Because that, if you think about it, Hot Topic. I remember when I was a kid. I'm 14, 15 years old. That played a major role. And everybody that I know now, who's in their 30s and 40s, the millennials who are gripped up by that woke bullshit, they were all big into Hot Topic and whatnot. Right. That satanic shit gripped the minds of the millennials back in the day. Right. And it's still probably playing a major role in doing that today, and it's a very low vibrational place.
Well, it was funny. I was trying to find some bands I listened to, and I've only found like 2. And I was like, what happened to all the bands I used to, it's all different now. It's all anime too. Like, I was like, well, they have a whole anime section now. But yeah, I feel like that. I mean, I like it because, of course, I like metal and hardcore, but it's not even metal and hardcore anymore.
Yeah.
It's like turned into something different. But I think you're right about that. Like, people who like, well, that I said that about this last 3 years the most. I was into Black Flag, Rancid, like, all that shit, but I didn't wear the jackets and dress up like that.
But they even have like the satanic pentagrams. You walk around Hot Topic.
I always knew, I always felt like that wasn't me, but it was like the energy of, especially like Anti-Flag I was really into, which was about anarchy and bullshit and calling out all the shit with the government and all that shit. All these bands that were against all the shit when we were young all fell for this shit and all supported the government. And that's when I was also another judgment card of like, you're telling me the people that were all singing about fucking fuck the government and how they're doing all this shit to people, they're creating wars, they're creating poverty, they're creating divisiveness, and now you're up here getting paid. It just came out today. It's all over Twitter. Anderson Cooper was getting paid $12 million by Pfizer. To push that fucking message.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't surprise me. I mean, it's a plan that's been in the works for a long time. And it's very similar to, like I told you, one of the connections that I had came out at first, when I first connected with this person, like a good guy that was trying to help, undo the control of the elites. And then after all the shit pops off, now the person comes out and is like, yeah, I'm friends with them. That's right. That's the plan. Fuck the sheep. Lead them to the slaughterhouse, shear them and slaughter them. And I'm like, who the fuck do we trust? And that's what if you look back on it, it makes perfect fucking sense. All these people, fuck the government, fuck this, fuck that. Then all of a sudden get you, on their side. Then when the time is right, they're going to flip the switch, and then you're going to be following them wherever they go, straight to the fucking slaughterhouse. And it worked on a lot of people.
I was going to say, because with Judgment, we'll take Anderson Cooper. I just thought of Offspring and how they were so all about the fucking pandemic. But I'm thinking one of their songs, you got to keep them separated.
Wow.
It's like, you know, okay, like, all right, okay, like, and I loved Offspring. They were fucking a great band. Like, that shit was fucking amazing.
Dude, did you hear, like, one of the first conspiracies I started getting into was human cloning. And there's this dude who told this story about how he would wake up in the cloning centers.
Yeah.
And they would have him hanging up. And he said this one time, and he even drew the picture. He said, I had this dream. I woke up and I was being hung from this thing in this big arena with people watching. And I had angel wings on me, and they had shot me with arrows. And I drew a picture of it. And then he said, years later, they came out with the Offspring cover. And he showed it, the picture.
Right.
He said the Offspring cover was me.
I did not know that, but I was also thinking of the fucking skeleton.
I'll find you that video and send it to you.
And then I was thinking of the Offspring itself just now. But the example is, I'll take Anderson Cooper. Motherfucker, okay. That wasn't surprising to hear it. But at the same time, the judgment comes upon him like, it's not us to be like, you're a fucking piece of shit, right? It's more just like, people are just now going to be like, you're on that side. But what I'm surprised with is how none of these people, if somebody like him were to come out and be like, you know what? I fucked up. I took this fucking stupid money and I propagated to you all this bullshit. And you know what? I'm giving this money to a real charity that's fighting for fucking the causes that the people really want. At that point, I would be like, you're the fucking real deal.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that nobody's thinking about that side of the coin right now. Like, what if people were to come and apologize for what they did? You know, because I feel like that's what we all are really wanting and we're not getting. And maybe they've set some of these stories up to get us like frustrated and just to put out there in the universe too, the frequency that these people aren't going to do it because they're too scared to come, that they think they're going to be ramsacked. It reminds me in The Dark Knight Rises, the Christopher Nolan Batman's, you know, where Bane takes over the city and says, it's yours, Gotham. And everybody just ran. And the first thing they do is all the rich people. And they just fucking go and take all their homes and fucking put them on trials and throw them and exile them all out. It kind of reminds me of that, of like, maybe a lot of these people want to apologize, but they also are afraid of being exiled or being, you know, the populace coming at them. Which, you know, I'm not one to also judge that they're wrong with that, you know. I mean, they're coming out and imagine how many families have lost a family member because they followed Anderson Cooper, you know, or having heart problems right now, or whatever the fucking situation might be. But I think the part of compassion in the judgment card can sometimes get lost, because I feel that it is that angel that is part of the temperance card that comes, and that we all at the same time are in the matrix, and we're all, whether we're taking the 12 million to push Pfizer or we're going through our own fucking issues of getting distracted from the matrix, I think it's a moment of judgment of whether or not we all come and see each other. And I don't think it's as much as admitting our faults as much as it, and that's much more of a Christian thing of sin, of original sin and having your sins be forgiven. I think it's much more of like, are you human? Are you willing to be like, hey, I fucked up? And take responsibility. And I think that's one of the greatest things that the judgment cards bring, is spirituality is about responsibility of soul to others and to ourselves. And when people see that and they can see you be that, then you could hear the message clear, you know? Mm-hmm. I don't know. I don't know what you think about that.
Well, when it comes to these big public figures, well, that's why I put that video up last night, about famous people, because we have, you know, this image in our mind. Whenever somebody's famous, people don't view them as regular humans. Like we have this thing, and me, even though I wouldn't consider myself famous, but even me becoming kind of popular on the internet and whatnot, I've had this weird revelation where I realized that I didn't realize that celebrities and famous people were just regular ass humans. And it made me start realizing most people don't.
Right.
So whenever we see somebody like that, we unconsciously put them up on this big pedestal, you know, and we just assume that they're these special superhumans that live up on this big pedestal and there's some above us. And it's like, no, we're all just regular humans. So a part of moving into this new earth that we're moving into is going to be that the famous people aren't putting on this big persona, this big front that leads people to believe that we're somebody above you. I really want to play a part in helping put out the message that we're all regular humans. Like you were saying, that human aspect. We're all regular humans. You see somebody up there on the news or whatever, and I just want to listen to everything you say because you are above me, because you're famous. And it's like, no, they're just a regular human like you. They put their pants on one leg at a time. They wipe their ass when they do. They're just regular humans, you know, and undoing that programming.
Right.
So that we can see that the Anderson Cooper, regular ass human.
Regular,
if he would just come out and apologize and be like, yo, I'm a human like you. I fucked up, you know?
Right.
That's a big thing that I'm trying to push for.
Yeah, I'm pushing for that too. And I feel like there's also, I feel like the celebrities that you're talking, and we all think of, we all are special people. So they tapped into it. Then they got to a place where people always say they sold themselves to the devil. I think it's more like they didn't hear the calling of like, you're more special than going down this road.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Good way to put it.
Right? Like don't sell. It's not about selling yourself away. Don't give up on the path that I got you to this point with, that this other entity, because I've been through Hollywood, and there's just things where you're just like, no, I'm not selling myself out. Like, or I guess a better way to put it is just like, I'm not doing what is not me. When I got asked to do these big reality shows that were going to be like, we're going to throw you in with some other psychics and you're going to be working at a fake psychic shop. I'm like, a fake psychic shop? How's that going to work with my work that's the real thing? No, I'm not taking it. And I have the recordings. I have the audio recordings of the Skype calls and shit. I've been going through old files and I found one. I was like, I can't even believe it. There I am. And he's like, well, I'm having this one problem. The producer's like, I'm having this one problem with this guy named David who just won't get on the team. And I'm like, well, I'm going on my retreat to Sedona. And when you're ready to do something that's real, that's about me, that actually does the real shit, fucking let me know. That's where the problem becomes. So yeah. I feel like there's been, whether it's Clint Eastwood, who's 100% been like, fuck all this. He's fucking old. He's one of the most famous actors of all time. And he didn't go down that road. He stayed true to himself. There's a lot of other examples out there. Mm-hmm. But it's funny how they like kind of get, the dark has kind of made them feel like they're not as special anymore to make other people be like, we're all like, what the fuck? This is like,
it's a big perception thing.
Yeah, it's a big perception.
Yeah, it's all the perception because, it goes back to what we were talking about that one time about how we're so programmed to worship something or someone out here. That's what I think a big part of why these dark forces started creating celebrities was we want people to worship you and listen to every little fucking thing that you say because one of these days you're going to turn down a path and we need them to follow you. Yeah. And so many people out there don't realize that anybody that they consider to be famous is a regular human. It's just this weird, I don't even know how to put words. I'm going to figure out a better way to explain it one day. But like people like you were saying, Clint Eastwood and whatnot, who have shown, we're all just regular humans. I stayed true to myself, but they're trying to devalue you. Like, oh, you're not that special. And people are falling for it. And we need to really push for the fact that we're all regular ass humans, Yes. And I think it's interesting that the term sell out came from rock music selling out. Like, bands that were great and they were indies and they're original, and then they get found by a record company, and it was like, yeah, fuck yeah, I'm going to sell out because we're going to make the money and we're going to do it. But they always change their sound. Yeah. And that pissed everybody off in rock music. They fucking went all fucking weak. Yeah. Like they weren't speaking anymore about what was real or whatever, right? That's where it came from. What didn't come from the celebrity world selling themselves to the devil. It was the rocker, the band that sold themselves to the record company that fucking sold themselves out, made a music video that was cheeseball, and then made cheeseball music, and then
became a chumbawamba. You know what I mean? Like thumper. Like, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like I won't, you know, it's like, oh, okay, I guess that's what happened. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the sad part is like, I feel like it's the same thing, but people are over exaggerating. It's like, you really sold your essence of what your embodiment of your tone, voice, frequency, and frequency match to the divine was for some clout / the idea of comfort, which you even said last week, the best, like, this is not about a goal of finding comfort, because that always leads on the wrong road, which is a good example of Anderson Cooper to a band that sold out. Like, even I was a big ska person, so fucking, you know, even fucking Mighty Boss Tones did their whole song about selling out. Like, you know, like, it's like every ska was something that, you know, kind of had to sell out to get heard, but most ska, you were a sellout if you did go on the radio, you know? Like, most ska bands stayed fucking out of it. And, you know, sure, maybe they didn't stay. I don't know if you know this, but rock music is not in the top music. Like, rock music now is underground, but it thrives more. The music videos see more than rap and all that stuff, but it's the rap that's being pushed all out there, and the rock music now that is like underground. It's so crazy now.
Because you have to have talent to do that.
Yeah, I know.
Like they're wiring the talent out of people. These rappers, they have no talent. They just grab somebody who's willing to be controlled. They write their lyrics. They write the music. It's all done for them. They just say, okay, you're going to go out and you're going to be fucking gay. And they're like, no. Yes, you're going to be fucking gay. And you're going to wear a satanic outfit. And this is what you're going to fucking do because, yeah. And they make them do it. And they write their lyrics for them. And that's the reason why rock music's underground. You have to have talent for that. To play guitar and play the drums and play the bass. They don't want people with talent, you know?
You put that so fucking perfect, dude. Just like, all right, welcome. You're going to do this. You're going to wear that satanic hat. You're going to be gay too. And you're going to make a post on Twitter. We already made it for you. We're just, it's scheduled for you. And then you're going to make an appearance here with a picture. And you're going to do some picture with Lady Gaga with a pride flag. You ready? All right.
Yeah, that's what it is.
You know, like that's not the music or the talent or the expression, because music moves the world. And I feel like that's the other part of the only card that shows the music. It's a trumpet. Music's changed music was my spiritual awakening, and I assume it was for you from your guitar playing and so forth.
I don't know if it was actually, honestly, it was kind of opposite for me because I grew up playing music. Like my whole family was musical. So my grandpa recognized that I could play the guitar. So he started getting me guitar lessons when I was like 9 or 10. And I played guitar my whole childhood, all throughout my teenage years. And then in my early 20s, I got my first little gig as a paid musician where I'd played with a little cover band, you know, locally. And then I just kind of lost the passion for it. And then as I became spiritually awakened, oddly enough, my passion for music started dying because I started realizing how low vibe a lot of it was. A lot of the songs that I wrote and some of the songs you were saying that you liked, that you heard,
I know.
Like those came from a dark fucking place.
I know, but that's part of the awakening experience. I feel like we go into our shadow to find the light.
Yeah.
I only trust people who've gone through their shadow to the light. I don't trust people who have never gone through their shadow. You know why? Because I know that shadow's still going to show up.
Yeah.
That transmutation process of dark to light is the light. So I don't trust people who haven't been through the shadow. When I haven't seen a fucking gnarly background, I'm like,
yeah.
That scares me. Because I'm like, and maybe that's my negative judgment, but like my judgment is like, oh, these people are in boxes of shadows and they're awakening.
Yeah.
That I feel like the awakening experience, and that's why, you know, I had an idea, like when I saw some of your videos of mild shit, like us showing old clips of us to now. Like what to show people that the spiritual experience just isn't from, well, you know, I'm doing my green juice every morning, and look I transcended. You know, it's a lot more intense, and this is one of the most intense cards. I know people think the Tower's intense. This card to me is way more intense than the fucking Tower card. Mm-hmm. Tower card's weak sauce to me. I'm like, oh wait, okay, these people are falling out of a fucking tower. This is people being called up by the divine fucking force, the trumpet that's coming, the divine angelic, spiritual, divine presence coming out of the sky. The judgment, it's 20. It's 2 Roman numeral X's. It's a double. It's a double fucking X factor. It's fucking massive. Mm-hmm. And it's that transmutation of that shadow. So like to me, music was in my shadow too. Even being a DJ, there was so much being the rave scene and drugs and just like, but you have a choice you have to make in life where it's like, that's part of me, and I'm transmuting this to become something that's of the light. And that you have to go through everybody who, you love and that you love doing that shit with and be like, hey, I'm going this direction. And usually there's not a lot of support, Usually there's a lot of people trying to keep you back in. Like, no, what are you doing,
Yeah. Oh, almost every time. Like the fucking crab in a barrel or crab in a bucket, whatever, when you're boiling the crabs and one of them tries to climb out and the rest of them try to pull you back in.
I know.
And you'll hear anybody who's ever gone from the bottom to the top, they'll tell you the same story. It happens to everybody.
I know.
Oh, what are you doing? You're wasting your time, and they'll try. And then when it doesn't work, they start trying to throw shit at you. Start trying to guilt trip you. And, oh, you think you're too good for us now. Oh, look at you. Don't forget where you came from and this and that. And it's every time. For those of you, anybody out there wanting to better your life and get on a manifestation path, it's coming. Oh, it's coming. A lot of people probably don't believe me. They're like, right. Oh, that wouldn't happen. And, oh, not my family. Oh, bullshit. Guarantee you. You start climbing up out of the vibration that you were born into and brought up in, you're going to see a lot of undercover haters. The snakes, their heads will pop up. That tongue will start flicking. And you're going to realize that a lot of your friends and family were undercover fucking haters. And it's sad.
I just have to say this story. So when I tried to be, whenever I did drugs, I was like, I'm the go big or go home king. So I wasn't like, oh, let's save a little. No, we're doing it all.
Huh.
So when it came to shrooms, finally got a guy who fucking might connect, and he was like, you're Mr. Big. Let's see if you're Mr. Big or not. We're doing 7.5 grams of mushrooms at once. I'm like, no problem. I've done everything under the sun fucking as to where most people would fucking die. I'm like, let's just go. I remember, and I'm just going to skip most of the story to just get to the part to where when finally that shit had hit and it was already nighttime and the whole world was cartoon at that point. And fucking, like the Chevron fucking guy would, ironically, here in Huntington Beach, right on the corner, was a fucking Mayan with a fucking headdress on now, fucking like, and I'm just like Marlboro Reds, like, I'm like, what the fuck? But I get to the apartment where everybody's doing drugs that I hung out at. I was in this, there was 2 apartments next to each other, and the roommates on both sides, we all knew each other. So it became like 50 people going to these 2 apartments just to do drugs. And they were right next to each other. So in and out the doors, right? And we were there, and I fucking literally was watching people I know do coke, and I was seeing these green electronic fucking energies at first on their face, like aliens. And I'm like, what the fuck? But when I saw them to go down to do the coke, it was a fucking, and I didn't know about reptilians then. I swear to God, didn't know what a reptilian was or anything. Saw the spiritual dark force overtake people in their pain and their suffering, and I was seeing that as they were doing the coke. While I'm on 7.5 grams of mushrooms going, what the fuck? Like, you know what I mean? Like seeing how everybody, when you get into those low vibe places, are all, you can't see it when the person's doing it, but I was able to see like, whoa, there's a fucking force that takes over people that keeps them like, yeah, keep taking that low vibe. And I fucking was flipping out now, right? Like I couldn't even talk to anybody. There were these 2 girls, they were lesbians, and they lived in one of the rooms, and I knocked on the door, and I opened the door, and they were in bed, and I saw fucking this beautiful red heart and these angels like above them. They weren't on drugs or anything. They were just laying down watching a movie, and I'm like, oh, I'm fucking seeing fucking da-da-da, and they're like, whoa, 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 because at first they were like, whoa, 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 like, David, are you cool? I'm like, and then they really saw I needed help, so they laid with me. And they just sat there and they comforted me while I fucking tripped out and started to see this dark and light forces throwing human souls around, like the light even throwing human souls. I mean, like, we're done. You want them to the dark. The dark, we're done with this person. Have the light. And throwing souls, and that we're all contained in this fucking container. And that there's us having to breach out of even what we conceive as light and dark, which is really breaking out of this fucking whole matrix, which is higher than even what we think these angelic people or the light or the dark, that we're beyond them. That's some deep shit.
That is fascinating.
You know, that's just typical awakening experience in my life. But
yeah. It takes me back to a lot of those good old days.
I know.
A lot of them. Yeah. And another, well, matter of fact, I was talking to a client the other day and they asked me, what is your opinion on why they call alcohol spirits? Do you believe that spirits overtake you? I said, yes, I do. That's why I quit drinking. I quit drinking. I quit. I mean, I went sober for about a year and a half, and then I picked it back up last July and had a pretty good little handle on it. Drink once a month, put it down, and the last time I drank, something attached itself to me, unlike anything that's ever been attached to me, ever. And I'm like, fuck that. Fuck that. Nope. It's like, it's very obvious. And I think the universe put me in that position. Because like that's a cool idea to sit and think about. You know, yeah, alcohol, spirits.
Right.
Yeah, I want to believe it, but maybe not. But no, the last time I drank, oh yeah, something attached itself to me.
Right.
Oh yes. And that's why I said, nope, never touching it again, ever. So I very much understand exactly what you're talking about. Oh yes.
And then that's hard. I know that it's hard for people. I mean, because there's no judgment, right? We have to go, that's an awakening experience in itself right there, you know? And that's what's hard about it. Like you said, oh, you're awake. Like, oh, you woke and you're fully awake. Like, it just continues and continues and continues. As long as that you're listening to this in those moments and then knowing what to do at that moment, that's what matters the most. So and that's where guilt and shame can still get on people. Like, even like, let's say you felt the entity attached to you, the spirits through the alcohol. The fact that you quit and then that you let it go is that you let it go, not just the alcohol, but the letting go of the shame. Most people can't let go of the shame.
That was hard.
You know what I'm talking about? Like I had shame for a while that I used so many drugs, and my family knew and everybody knew. And the biggest thing that got me to quit meth was when my brothers and his friends would come over, and I just would have tweak bongs. My apartment was like I was 20 years old, fucking got just kicked out of the military and was making fucking almost $100,000 a year at a boat dealer. I'm fucking like, I shouldn't have been the place I was, but I was. And I'm like, who wants to smoke some tweak bongs with me? You know what I mean? Who wants to do a hot rail? Fucking, I got the blowtorch out, you know, like, and to know that was my, you know, my brother's friends started being like, to my brother, like, your brother's the man. He's fucking Mr. fucking crazy, you know? It was like, that was a rude awakening for me of like, this is what I'm leaving on my brother. And he is the older brother, what I'm leaving on him and his friends. Like that they can look to me as the guy to get fucked up. Like really fucked up. And that was like a, oof. And then there was shame when I was sober about that for a long time until I finally realized like, you know, like that's not who I am now. And, you know, now they see me in different ways. You know, they don't see me as that person anymore. But I think that shame is the worst dark's, or the dark's best trick. Self-shaming yourself forever about shit.
Oh, yeah. Know? Yeah, I know. That was hard. That wasn't easy. Letting go of. I mean, because I got so much shit to be ashamed of and embarrassed about from the past that, I mean, I do the best that I can to go back and be with it and transmute it and release it. But it's still an ongoing process. I mean, I don't, like you said earlier, it's a never-ending process. I'm not near where I want to be. I still got a lot of shit from the past and a lot of shit that I don't fucking remember because I had a real traumatic childhood too. You know, I was taken away from my parents when I was 2, and I've read the reports of the court case and whatnot. Apparently, it was very traumatic, but I don't fucking remember any of it.
Right.
So
but it still has an effect for sure.
Yeah, and I know I've had psychics tell me that lots of the demons that were attached to me when I was a young kid, and I was traumatized, but I don't fucking remember it. So going back and trying to be with that And transmute, it's really hard when it's buried under your subconscious mind and you don't remember it, you know?
Yeah.
So, oh yeah, it's a never-ending process.
But you also at the same time just don't want to be fishing for it 24/7, just a transmuting fisherman of your past.
Yeah.
And just all day throwing out a reel. What's the next thing I could find that I could transmute just 24/7? I feel like fishing's kind of like a special moment. You know what I mean? Like, okay, we're getting together, we're gonna go fish. It's kind of like in the same time when you get the universe gets you where it kind of funnels you into moments where it's like, okay, it's time to face this. Don't go seeking it too much, because then that throws you in another trap. You know, like you don't want to be living in your past. Like you know, when the time comes for something to come to be faced, that's the judgment moment. You know, like, are you gonna rise out of this now? This is the moment. We're on the expedition now. You know, if you think about fishing, it's not like right now if I said, hey, let's go fish, unless I had a fucking pond in here, we have to go get in a truck, get the fishing stuff, get to the place, right timing of day, throw all the fucking, whether we're going to fly fish or whether we're going to just troll or whether we're going to just fucking throw down a fucking anchor with fucking a little weight on it and fucking a little bobble and put some power bait from the 90s on there. I don't know, but it takes a lot of energy to do that. So some people, I think, they spend too much time trying to do too much spiritually.
Yeah.
And the judgment card is like a reminder that the moments when you need to face things will happen. It's how you deal with it in that moment. Because if you're going to chase your past, or if you're going to chase your future too much too, that's out of alignment too. There's a natural alignment because the temperance angel shows up too, the natural. It's a natural time when the earth can be at where it's at, right? And the tree, and the basics of just geometry or geography, of just like looking at a mountain and seeing the layers of all the water over all that time. Like that shit takes millions of years, but there is that natural process. It's not like the layers looking below like, shit, there's going to be another layer on top of me. No, it's going to be the layer it is for as long as it's going to be. It's going to ride it out fully. So I think too many people fear of like, well, the future, look what the past did too much of like that. And I do that as an astrologer, but it's like to have you an awareness to understand, to keep going and to understand when those moments come, or you could ride it out better than blind, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yep, that's what we're here to talk about. That's especially with the event. Hopefully, my goal is to be able to connect with every single person that I'm able to connect with, and hopefully be able to send them on their way on a different vibration.
100%.
That's my goal. Like, a vibration you can fucking feel. I want you to feel it in your hands, because that's the frequency that I channel. Right. I can feel it in my hands right now, tangibly. And that's going down a rabbit hole that I'll dig a little bit deeper as time goes on. But
is that why the Magician's like your favorite card?
No, that's not the reason why. This is actually something that I just stumbled into over the past few years with a buddy of mine who actually has a YouTube channel called Everyday Masters, and his name's Case, and he's a practitioner of this frequency. And when I was on my path, he's one of the people that I stumbled into on YouTube, and I was a big fan of his, and I always heard him talking about this frequency that he channels. And finally I got the chance for him to connect me to that frequency. And once you're connected and you're activated, it's on all the time, and I can feel it buzzing in my hands right now. Right. And and we're going to be doing some of that. And Leah,
oh, and she is too.
Yeah, well, she was connected to that frequency, and she was also connected with Reiki, but she channels a totally different energy than me, and we both use it together, and it's pretty cool shit. I want to be able to send everybody out of here feeling a different vibration.
Yeah, and we're both doing our own workshops together. We're doing cool stuff when people show up here Friday night. So it'll be Friday night, Saturday, and then finishing Sunday in the afternoon. All going to be here at High Vibe TV Studios, and we have other events that we're going to be doing around here, but it's all going to be here. And then, of course, for those that can't make it, we'll be doing the live stream as well. The website will be theawakeningexperiencelive.com. It's not up yet because we've got it all. If you watch the live on Rich's channel, we were already making it last week. We're almost done finishing up the final details. We want to do this as the best situation there ever is. Like we don't want to half-ass anything. And so I feel like it's the exact perfect timing too. with what we are all going to be facing for the rest of this year, it's so much.
Yeah.
And even the mind stuff that you go into and the astrology stuff that I go into, I mean, just think once we hit the holidays and going into 2024, all the election stuff's ramping up.
Man,
again.
dude.
And this one and all the stuff and the war stuff and all this stuff, we need to transmute this energy into something different. But it's best to always be with people that have their awakening experiences with others. We all learn from each other. We all grow together, and to be with people and to be able to do it in a physical form is what honestly is the best way to do it. But we understand some people can't make it. That's why we do the live stream portion.
Yeah.
And you know how we do our live streams here. They're full blown, like as if you were here. So,
Yeah.
but if as not here, there's the cool little activities that won't be live streamed.
Yeah. I feel like where we are right now is like, think of where you were back in 2019. Like,
Yeah.
you know, leading up to
true.
2020, you had no idea what was coming. We were just living on normal old lives. Everything is all normal. And, you know, and then the next thing you know, clock strikes 2020 and then all hell breaks loose. And I feel like this is like 2019 2.0. Going into 2024, you thought 2020 was crazy.
Right.
Oh, this is going to be fucking nuts. It's probably going to put it to shame. So,
Well, we got Rich. He's going to be playing his guitar too. I'll do some DJing like always. Like it's going to have so many elements to it, and we're making it affordable too. It's not like we're charging crazy. And we'll make a Telegram group too for the event for those that want to maybe stay together to save money, whatever it is, figure it out. I'm also finding a way to make some payment plans, even though the tickets to come here are not that crazy. So we really just want, but we're capping the tickets at 100 people. So we're not going to make it too many people to where we can't. People feel left out, I guess you could say.
yeah.
But you'll see all that come out this week. So appreciate it. Thanks for sharing the show. And just keep having your awakening experience.
Absolutely. Keep on waking up.
Yep. We'll talk to you on the next one. Adios. Judgment card out.